messaged Luca to tell him what you said, and Luca responded back to me saying, "Thank you so much, I appreciate you," and that he remembered you, Guile. He specifically remembered you and had a couple of good back and forth. So I just wanted, I don't know if you're watching, but there was no other way to be able to connect. And so if you're able to tune in, if you're not tuning in, then hopefully we'll be able to say something to you the next time you pop in there. But Luca absolutely remembered you, and I thought that was pretty cool. So we still get positive comments from all the.
This must have not been that. This is somebody asking me about my Tesla. Wants to know about my color.
It's not our Luca?
Unless it wants to know about my color change.
Oh, that's like a random. That's a coincidence.
But it's funny because like how would it know? I must have. Well, I'll hear the message. I mean, we all know what his voice sounds like.
Okay, well maybe it wasn't Luca.
For sure.
But either way, Guile in the chat, if you're here, just wanted to let you know.
Luca, again, another great guy that we had here, and unfortunately, I don't think he stayed in the trading game. As like we said, many people that hit these keys eventually pass on to another profession because it's tough, right? It's
or maybe stay in the same general profession.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think he's day trading anymore, but it could be. I have no idea.
Luca, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's like
he was at the poker. He was at the poker night, but. Yeah. I didn't. He came later, so I didn't get a chance to talk.
All right, 11:01. Good day today, man. Just glad that we're able to do what we're doing right now live with everybody. And Randy, great shirt there. Let me give another shout out to Uxbridge Lawn Love. So if you are in Uxbridge and your lawn needs a little bit of love, contact Uxbridge Lawn Love there. I don't know. Yesterday I did a little bit of landscaping. It was gorgeous outside, so. Definitely worth it there.
The heat, though, was...
The heat was too much, but, you know, sweat a couple pounds off there. That was nice. All right, we'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Let's go Apple, and let's go midday. How about now?
It's joking, it wasn't Luke.
No, it says maybe.
Yes. Good greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to the Midday Show. That's your boy, Joey Options. I'm Sharif, and... here's what we're looking at to start the morning. Let's bring in the side chart and get right down to work. CBRG is breaking out as we speak into 619. This one is a bit of a spready one, but the bull flag breakout is on with a clean hold of the volume weighted average price. Watch out for this one. It is quite spready. Keeping a close eye here on CBRG. A bit more expensive, but as you can see, basically trading at the highs. There's another high of day into 630. So the rip is on right now. CBRG looks like it's on the way to the $0.50. Watch out for this one. GIPR, another clean hold here of the volume weighted average price, at least for the last 20 minutes or so. And the good news about this one is it has taken out the pre-market high, which was in and around 42 and pennies and change. We're up to 43.50. Let's see if this one can step up. It looks currently like it's holding structure. That's GIPR. I'm also keeping a close eye here on NFLX. This one is suffering from some lower highs, though. 53 pennies or thereabouts is the volume weighted average price. Watch for a hold there. It could be a good scalp off VWAP, but I wouldn't be so tight with my stop right below the volume weighted average price. Case in point is the candle at 1045, which breached it decisively. There are some ones that are running currently. They're not strictly small cap gappers. So, you know, we'll kind of try to trade them as such, but we'll have to wait and see. CODX breaking down below VWAP, likewise with AMST. In fact, it looks like VWAP here with AMST is acting as resistance. And what I see here is a lot of lower highs. This could be a flat bottom break through 208 or $2. So shorts, get your locates ready. AMST looks primed to break down. If it does, it could see 150 in a hurry. That is the aftermarket high from yesterday. CORD, I don't mind trading this one. This one also suffers from the spread. It has about a 15 to 20 spread, but it has a good structure on its hands, Joey. So that's what I'm looking at. Those are the 8 we got on for now.
No power walk this morning. Rainmaker, what's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good start to their Tuesday. What's up, Jody? We have Omer Kuzik in the chat. A lot of the regulars. Blicky, what's up with the profile pic there, my guy? It's all right, to each their own. Nonetheless, let's get into this hangry wife. Hope everyone's having a fantastic one. I mean, a little bit slower of a start here for me to end the green streak right now, but I mean, there's plenty of time left within the day, so we'll be patient and wait that 2 o'clock hour, I told you guys that's when we've been hot, and we get a lot rocking and rolling around 2:30 or so. Now, as for Tesla, guys, we took a couple attempts on this bad boy, continuously selling, down over 3% on the day, and we go 0 for, not today, custom ATH, that's for sure, but that's all right, man. We never count ourselves out, you know that. Plenty of time, and that's why you get out when you're supposed to. The first couple of trades that we had going on here, paper cuts, paper cuts, paper cut. This one, we're like, all right, let's see if we get a little bit of a pop. Sure enough, it climbed higher, but then I'm like, let's get out of it. Boom, flush city there, and then continues to grind higher after it put in somewhat of a bottom. So yeah, a slower one to start off, but again, that's why you keep your risk to reward ratios in check. Couple of trades and you're just right back to Greensville, USA. So that's what we have going on. Let's take a look at what we have on our watch list here as Intel cooling off a little bit here. Got from a high of $130 plus, now down to a low of $102.38. We're trading around $104.44 right now. There's NVDA. Tesla, Pops Mafia was asking me about IBIT this morning. I haven't even looked at it, to be honest with you. So how's that been performing here today? Not the best. I mean, we were climbing to a high of around a previous pivot high of $47. We're now about $3 off of that level. So not too good of a look in the crypto space. Intel starting to head lower once again, and we can just draw our basic trend lines. Now, as for the Qs and the SPY, you know we always have them in the corner of our eye. That's our watch list right there. Now, going through a couple of the other memory names here, we can go into DRAM and see what Micron and SanDisk are up to. You can see MU finding its way here a little bit, but we're talking about $650. Oh, what a bounce off of that level. We brought that up on the options chain. You can see we clearly bounce off that 650. There's a lot of open interest there. So somewhat of a put wall. You bounce, not too bad of a look. You're now north of the volume weighted average price. Now, as for SNDK, how have you been performing? SanDisk. I was looking at the inverse leverage product of this thing, $1,278 from the intraday low, now north of VWAP. But Tesla not participating in today's I guess I shouldn't say rally, but continuing its downtrend. That's 4 consecutive sessions in a row on TSLA. No need to go over some of the quantum names. Those haven't been performing well. And if Bitcoin's not performing well, then what's going on with Coinbase? Coinbase finding its way here, climbing higher up to a high of approximately 191.75 on that bad boy. So a lot going on. CrowdStrike hit an additional all-time high here today of $634. But hey, man, regardless if you own it or not, you have to come to the realization that if you climb, if you go on this type of move, at some point you're going to pull back, and the chances of it being pretty aggressive are up there. Look at MU, more than 20% off that low there, got off that high, 20 and 4/10, and then SanDisk, the exact same thing, hitting that 20% marker. Now finding its footing a little bit, guys, but I believe there's going to be some more downside. I was looking at Broadcom this morning, and there's a key support level. I think this is going to crack and head a little bit lower. So a tougher look in some of the chip names, and this isn't exactly what I want to see in NVDA leading into the earnings report. We're not completely breaking down. We're starting to form a sideways consolidation, which isn't horrible. Let's see what tomorrow brings, but you know we have our options playing. We're going to buy those out of the money calls to see if that works out. Oh, that's Apple. What am I talking about? NVDA. Same thing. Ooh, continuously selling. So Apple holding up way better than what we got going on in AMD, NVDA, SanDisk, Micron, and Broadcom.
All right, we're doing it. We're doing okay over here. Ready?
How did that happen?
Looking for continuation on GIPR. There we go. I'm not sure why it's not letting me out. Okay, there we go. GRPR, we're in at 41, 44.50 high of day. So the breakout is on, and that's already 1 hour for us. Well, full disclosure, 1 hour was 45. We took it out 44.9. 44.5. Here it comes 44.5 again. Here comes 45. There goes 45. Let's post up at 46. We're looking for that move into the $0.50. GIPR, the best of the bunch at the moment, up 82%. Got a lot of volume coming in locally. In fact, at the moment, GIPR has about 222 million shares in volume. So by far the biggest volume leader in the world of small cap gappers. Looking for the $0.50 touch now. We're looking for 2R at 48 pennies. I'm posted up for a beak wetter at 46. Let's see what kind of liquidity we get there. It's been pretty good. It doesn't feel like a thick trade quite yet, despite the fact that there is about 40,500 shares available for borrow on my platform. I'm talking about personal brokerage. The reason I mention that metric is it's often indicative of whether or not it's going to be a thick trade into the key areas of technical resistance, as it will be easy to borrow from whoever wants to short this. So GIPR 45.90 now, essentially high of day, posted at 46. Nothing comes through at 46 as a result of not crossing, obviously. So this is the one I'm looking at. I also want to mention CORD before we go to Adara. Flat top break manifesting here on CORD at 7 3/8. Try to pick it up 7 1/5, 7 1/4 to give yourself the best opportunity. GIPR coming down. I'm interested in a hold at 40. It doesn't hold at 40. I'm out. Adara.
Guys on Zoom. Now, ZM, in case you missed it or are not aware, they have a large investment in Anthropic now that they've got into about 3 years ago now. So this is on news because we have on watch because we have Anthropic related news here. Andre Karpathy, who is a computer researcher who helped co-found OpenAI and worked at Tesla for 5 years from 2017 to 2022, he just announced that he's joined Anthropic. So ZM does get a little bit of a tick up here. Again, Andre Karpathy, researcher associated with OpenAI and Tesla, is joining Anthropic. Again, Zoom is an Anthropic sympathy play given their investment in the company. And Zoom also has earnings on Thursday. Back to you.
Yeah, looking for continuation now into 46. Again, I'm getting Assassino echoes in my ear. 44 showing. I'm in Unity. I'm in. Yeah. I'm in. Oh, there we go. He shut it. He's perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Looking for continuation now into 46. I said sorry. If it loses 40, I'm out, Joe.
All right, good. I didn't think you were everything brewed. Trust me, I don't know if you thought that's what I thought, but it's definitely not. And Joe has a child. Well, if he had a child, no. Anyways, no, it's neither here nor there, brother. Don't worry about it whatsoever. Yeah, so other than that, guys, I mean, we're going to be patient a little bit here. We took a couple attempts. I was going to try one more, but you know what I typically say, right? 3-strike rule. I took one more attempt on this consolidation. We did get a little bit of a pop. Could we have taken some off? Sure, but that's what-if history, and we didn't. We were looking for more of a move back towards the volume-weighted average price. Needed to absorb some more liquidity, and then that's when it decided to bounce. Now, at 5 attempts, it's a little bit risky. Is it the 5th one that works? Sure, but how many times are you going to just continuously try the exact same trade and it not work? I mean, you can continuously go, but then what happens when it doesn't? And you're like, hey, why did I even do that? So I'm glad that we just left it alone. Aside from the fact that it's grinding higher, I wouldn't be surprised if we run into VWAP, but it's unfortunate that Tesla, considering USO trade right back into play. And I had that hunch this morning, to be honest with you guys. I'm like, oh man, what happened at the end of the session yesterday? We had that strong pump. I thought there'd be a little fugazi stepping into the market here today. And I think that's kind of been the narrative. We have been selling. We're off of the highs. But let's just be patient. A lot of it is waiting for what's going to happen tomorrow evening. By the way, join. I believe it's going to be Sean and Dara. I don't know if Sharif's staying put for the NVDA report, but there's going to be a lot going on there, and I'm going to be looking forward to it. That's for sure. We'll break down those numbers as it is released. Now, moving forward, let's take a look at how some of the staples names are. We'll get into the best performing sectors momentarily, but we almost tapped into an all-time high here on, one of my favorite stocks, Wally's World, Walmart. I thought the dividend was a little bit better, but $134.82. We talked about CrowdStrike, and it's just unfortunate. JPM up to 298, just stuck in this consolidative zone right now. We thought we'd break up. That was a strong session right there. Just not performing very well. With that being said, what do? We look to buy a little bit more. As soon as the additional funds head into my account, I don't know what's going on with that. It's been in lieu for quite some time, and I'm like, all right, I would like to buy some, but hey, maybe it's the trading gods being like, all right, Joe, be patient, wait for it to settle, and then you can grab a little bit more JPM. So that's what I'm looking to do. Goldman Sachs and some of the other banks not performing very well here today, and I think it's just the financials jib at the moment. Robinhood, even though it was up, I just don't think it's been performing, and it's going to take some time. Wait until we find somewhat of a rotation out of the tech trade, and I think we'll head right back into some more staples and into the financials, because at the end of the day, up and to the right, as the banks typically go.
Right on. I got continual selling here at 45 pennies on GIPR. Consistently a seller in and around 45, despite the fact the high of the day is 45.90. I am worried about a bigger retracement down into the 10 EMA, which is around 41. I've moved up my stop from 39 pennies where I had it originally, and I've moved it just below 41 pennies to account for the new placement of the 10 EMA on the 5. I'm not liking the fact that we're getting a lot of resistance south of the $0.50. Typically, you see this 47, 48, 49. We're seeing a little bit earlier. So we'll see what we get. We won't get upset. I could move up my stop to prior bar low, which takes me to about 42.82. I don't think that that would be the right move given how this has traded on the day. So it has basically upper and lower wicks on a majority of the candles. Some of them breach prior bar high. Some of them breach prior bar low. If that's the case, then it wouldn't be advantageous for me to have a tight stop at a key area because it's shown its propensity to breach a level and then mosey on its way into area highs or lows for that matter. So here we are again at 45. This is going to be the third 5-minute candle that rejects 45. Here it is. It's ripping up into 47. We get the print there. Now we're waiting at 48. 48 takes us to 2R, and we're going to take out half the position here. So let's go ahead and wait just south of 48. We're 47.9. It is now 47.14 high of the day, encountering resistance at the 1 penny level. I'm talking about 47. I'm looking for a price spike up into around 48. That puts 2R on my plate, and then we look to the next trade. The next trade could be this one as well, but we're going to pick it up off key levels. Basically, a perfunctory analysis of this one shows you that there's a lot of resistance at 42. You had resistance at 42 at 10 a.m. You certainly had it between 10:30 and then again into 10:45, and then you had it for a lesser time period right around there. And there it goes into 48.40. It is on the way to 50 pennies. Here comes 59. Now we're knocking the door, 49. Now we're knocking the door of 100% on the day, having done 240 million shares. Be on the lookout for resistance at the $0.50. That is typically how these trade.
Yeah, all right, man. Let's take a look at some more of the names here. TK Holdings, you know, I love that name, and obviously some of the cybersecurity bull. Not performing very well, but still off of the lows, right? Like with $4.46, you're trading up to $7 almost. So that's not too bad of a return whatsoever, around almost 60% there, guys. Bitcoin down to 43.35. And let's take a look at some more names. I mean, Netflix at $90. We're not going to complain about that whatsoever. We had the split back in November. Haven't fully recovered off of that high, but that's all right, man. We're just going to be patient with it. $134, still down 32%. Same thing with the banks. We're going to wait for some form of a rotation. Oracle was around $200 not too long ago. You're down $17 off of that level. Google touching all-time highs yesterday and now starting to come back in, but that's a big time move, right? We're not going to complain whatsoever. You get 50% in goggles, bang, that's a big time return. And I wish I was still involved with it, but that's neither here nor there. I think at the end of the day, it's just slowly grabbing some. So I've just been building up my my swing account once again, and just like, hey man, less activity, and let's just grab the big names and get back to where we were from before. I remember I was in NVDA from like $105, allowed that to work up into 200, take that off, and then we take a couple of big time hits via some calls, IBIT, Netflix. It was just like essentially an avalanche of just horrible trading as the market was pulling back before it went on that big time run last month. And then, so sure enough, with that, we're not going to shy away from anything. We get right back on the saddle. You know what they say, if you fall off the horse, get right back on. But you want to do it smart. And I heard the boys talking about this morning, just like prop trading and retail trading. To be honest with you, having done both, there's really, like from a risk standpoint, not too much of a difference, man. You got to abide by your loss rules, because if anything, your personal account is like, hey man, that's some of the hard-earned money you worked for. You don't want that to just disappear and dissolve into absolutely nothing. So you have to stick with those stop losses. You have to implement daily loss limits on your platform and on your broker and stick by them, because you'll be having a really bad time. There's nothing worse than working that account up and then just doing a couple of dumb things regardless of what's going on. What's up, Raheem? And then sure enough, you give months and months away of returns. I've done that on multiple occasions, and it's not fun, especially when you're like, oh, I'm starting to get it. You get the gist of things, and I told you guys the story of me being like about a year or so in, account, boom, nice steady up into the right after a couple of months of just sticking to every single rule possible, grinding, obviously the market helping, and then just being like, hey, yeah, at the point you believe you can't be wrong, that's not the narrative. So, yeah. Just keep that in mind, guys. Make sure you call your broker, which I've been trying to do. Apparently, you can't even speak to a person anymore on IBKR, which kind of sucks, but you have to put in tickets, be patient, then they'll hit you back via email. So that takes a little bit of time, but get on the phone with your broker, get on with your platform, implement those daily loss limits, whether it be via percentage or a dollar amount, and stick to them because it's going to help you in the long run.
50 pennies in view here, 49.97 high. We're waiting now for the breach of 50. That is where my next profit taker takes. Look at the resistance at 50, ripping up into 51. GIPR now really moving. Let's look for resistance here. I'm looking for perhaps another price spike up. There's 52.09, taking a profit at 52. Let's let it run. It's either going to stop me out below 42 pennies, or we're going to ride this one into 2/3. Whichever one comes first. I'm neither going to remove anything until 2/3, or I'm not gonna add until I see that 42 penny level. That's where I see support. I see support at 42. I don't think we're going to get support at 50. I don't think we've decisively cleared that level by a sufficient amount yet. So that's all I do. I wait, I pack the patience, let it come down so I can get more into 42, or let it rip up so I can get more out at 2/3. I personally don't care. NXT, the other one I'm looking at here, a very obvious consolidation with about 58 pennies as resistance, about 53 or 54 pennies at support. So you're looking at a 3 to 4 penny range. My suggestion to you, if you're interested in trading this, you're picking it up towards the low end of the range. You're taking profits on whatever, a third, a half, towards the high end of the range, and then you're leaving a piece for the dream for the breakout. So be on the lookout there. NXXT looks pretty good. What did I say about AMST again? Oh, that's right. I remember. Flat bottom break through 210. It is on the way down. It has lost 210. It has lost 2. It is now at a $1.75 low. AMST looked fantastic as a short, but the locates were a little too rich for my blood, so to speak, so we stayed away from this one. What I did really like, and what I do really like about AMST as a short, is simply these lower highs and then a very, very clear, a very obvious area of support. That area is $2.10. Whether you were 7:05 a.m. in the pre-market, whether you were 7:55 a.m. in the pre-market, or after the implied balance open, there was a whole lot of defending in and around 210. I don't want to say on a strict wick basis, but a very clear closing print basis that 210 was a clear area of support, but that was not supported by the lower highs, and that obviously kept a lot of downward pressure on the longs, and then they really couldn't do anything anymore, and here we are, 25 pennies below that level. So continue to watch here. If you haven't already got your AMST locates for short, go ahead, find out how much they'll cost you. There's none available here on my platform. Of course, there will be at Real Trading. There's no question about that. It's just about matter of how much they cost. CORD is prohibited for trading on our system, so we won't be able to get into this one. But I was looking at getting in at around 720 for those who can trade it. 720, obvious area of general area of support. It's not a strict area of critical support, but it does seem to bounce off there with 735 as resistance. Again, same thing that I said with the earlier one. You're picking it up towards that 7 1/5. You're selling towards 7 1/3, and you're holding a piece for the dream for the breakout there. I don't really have anything else positive in terms of small cap gappers. A lot of them are failing, as you can see here. CODX really dropping after making that 275 high at around 950. There is some support here, though, I need to point out, in the high 180s, low 190s, and that owes to the 930 implied balance low. In fact, that is the low of the day at $1.88. If it does hold this, I want to say $1.90 to $2 level, and then breaches, I would say, that 2.25, then this one could be on the move back up. So let's see what we get here in terms of CODX. Currently, it's not tradable for me as a long. I can only take it as a short, but I'm not really interested in doing that, Joe.
The best one, but they retain me just because of customer service. Yeah, I mean, it used to be really good. Like I have their number in my phone, and you'd call them, and within a couple of seconds, you're speaking to a human being. It's not necessarily the case anymore from what I've discovered this morning. There's a couple good prints across the board here, guys. I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. Intel with some inverted right at the volume weighted average price. Not the biggest fan of trading this thing, so I haven't taken any attempts on it, so maybe we'll switch that up. Don't know why I was really looking at it, but hey, man, nice break of the pre-market low. Double inverted right there. So, excuse me, if there's any form of a pullback, we'll be patient, we'll wait, and as long as it doesn't breach that 106 marker, then I think there could be a good opportunity for a little bit more downside movement. We do have to take into consideration that this is a steady uptrend. We have the consistent higher lows, and then now if we have a 5-minute candle, we're in a good place, right? Like you're at the volume weighted average price, you have a trend line, it breaches to the downside, you're patient, you have that 5-minute print open on the back end of things, and then boom, flush, maybe we'll head a little bit lower. But I mean, it has been selling over the past couple of sessions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 8 days, it only has one green one really. So we may as well continuously go with the flow. You don't want to fight the trend, as they typically say. So be patient and wait for those to come into play. Inverted on IBIT right at the volume weighted average price, that's starting to sell. You'd really have to load up the shares on this one because it's literally only moving pennies. So break up that candle low, 43.28, and then sure enough, we can head maybe towards the low of the day. All right, guys, we have a special guest with us here today. Let's send it off to Adara.
We're very excited to have on with us Dwayne Parnham, CEO of Critical One Energy. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, I'm great. Thanks, Adara, for having us.
Well, I think honestly, like the sector that we're talking about here, critical metals, rare earths, it's been so hot lately. So I guess can you kind of tell us from the standard of being within the industry, any trends you're noticing or anything that you think people should maybe know that they might not be aware of if they don't have this industry insight?
Yeah, I mean, the critical minerals sector has really exploded lately. And I mean, a lot of the stocks have performed very well as a result of sort of this situation where U.S. now is looking to replace supply chains that have been disrupted from China. So there's a lot of macro events going on, I think, that's underpinning and supporting the stocks and the sector that we're in. So the critical minerals is real, and I think it's going to continue for a while.
Let's talk about some specific minerals within the space. Now, I know your company is involved in Antimony. Can you talk a little bit specifically about the role of antimony or antimony? I apologize if I'm pronouncing wrong.
We say it, yeah,
okay,
both ways.
Perfect. So how that is, I guess, playing a role within the space right now and specifically opportunities for antimony going forward.
Yeah, so I pronounce it, and now you got me confused a little bit.
Sorry.
Antimony, but antimony is kind of one of these critical minerals that nobody knows about or very few know about it, but everybody needs. So it's become kind of a frontline center. I believe, from what I've seen, it's probably the most critical of the critical minerals. So US, 100% of their antimony is imported. 68% of it comes from China, and the rest is from like Russia and other jurisdictions unfavorable to the North America trade. So it created a really unique opportunity for us in this business.
So can you specifically talk a bit, because I'm very curious now about Canadian antimony and how that fits in? I know you said most of it's from China, some of it's from Russia, but I guess what is the breadth of the Canada antimony opportunity, and how are you guys capitalizing on it?
Well, Canada used to produce antimony for World War II, World War I. So, but we have no antimony production right now, currently in North America. So at a time when U.S. is looking to repair their supply chain and looking for favorable jurisdictions to work with to replace that supply, Canada becomes a big part of it. So this is really exciting. Plus you have governments now supporting this whole critical mineral replacement, fast tracking, funding, guys like us that are looking for this metal.
That's really exciting, and thank you for even telling me about the World War II aspect, because I wasn't familiar. Yeah. Now, in terms of applications, I think, for antimony, we were talking about some of this off camera before the interview began, but can you tell the people out here at home how antimony can be used from a governmental standpoint, from a country-specific standpoint? I guess, how are people planning on putting this out there?
Yeah, so The usage is very broad for antimony, and it's a unique compound in that it's irreplaceable. So the characteristics of antimony is such that as a fire retardant, for example, in semiconductors, in the military use, solar panels, and all these things, it's like you can't find a replacement for it. So it's a really unique metal that is now so much in demand just because, again, China is not delivering it to North America.
Let's talk a little bit about the trading standpoint of this and zooming out here. I want to talk a little bit about your company, of course.
Sure.
Critical One Energy, you did announce a big find here at your Howells Lake project. Can you talk a bit about what these results are and what they mean going forward for your company and for the space?
Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer for us as a company. We've been, over the last year, kind of talking about all of this historical data that we've had, the work that was done back in 1978 when it was discovered. I gotta say, it's been remarkable work that allowed us just to kind of continue on with that exploration effort. So we acquired the project. We own 100% of it a year ago. We raised $9 million in flow through, and we've spent roughly about $1.5 million in our $9 million drilling budget. And lo and behold, we found kind of like the jackpot of antimony, and we just found this high-grade zone of almost pure antimony in a mineable width. So we're really excited about that.
That's amazing, and especially under budget. That's awesome too. Do you have any plans going forward, or I guess what's next for the company?
Yeah, I mean, we announced on Friday, the long weekend, only because the assay lab delivered these exceptional results, and it's material for us. So we got that out over the long weekend, and the traders are getting a chance to see those results today and how it affects our company from a market valuation perspective. I really believe we're just starting right now with these results, and then of course continued drilling will happen all summer. There's other elements and surprises that we'll be delivering to the market here shortly. So at around 90 mil market cap, I think this could be a 10x for your traders.
I can't wait to see what's next. Thank you so much to Dwayne Parnham, CEO of Critical One Energy, for being here with us today and providing all this really interesting info about the critical metal space.
Thank you, Val. Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Yep, continuing to watch here, guys. GIPR still hanging around that 50 penny level. It hasn't failed it with any decisiveness. In fact, the current candle is still holding above the prior bar. The 1125 candle on the 5-minute chart has a 48.01 penny low. The current one we're making lower now, but about 49 pennies. Looking for it either a move into 42 and a hold up generally at 42, or a move into 2/3. We'll see which one comes first. I wanted to bring a new one that I was able to find here. Now, this one is a little bit lighter on volume, but quite respectful of trend. In fact, it was moving a little bit yesterday. It had a decent morning, kind of gave up a little bit during the midday, but did catch a bid into the late part of the afternoon at around 1 o'clock and made the day high into 246. Today is more of the same, basically holding yesterday's high as today's low in and around 243. The high yesterday, 246. The low today, 243, so a good look. Up into 269 it goes, and nary a breach. In fact, none of the 10 EMA on the 5, currently showing $2.63 on the 5-minute chart. As I mentioned, 269 area high. This ticker is CERS, which on the day, I'll tell you in a second, has done about 1.1 million shares. So as I mentioned, a little bit light on volume, but generally respectful of trend. My suggestion is to pick this up off the 10 EMA. If it loses the 10 EMA, then you got in at the wrong time. It's all good. Look for the next trade.
All right, man. Blicky and Jesse going back and forth as usual. My type of humor there, and customer all-time high. Yeah, thanks for telling everybody to hit that like and subscribe. We should do that, man. Just do that. Us a solid. Hit that like button. Cost you absolutely nothing. How did you guys get Ron? Okay, I gotta read these chats before I actually say them out loud. Here it is though, guys. A lot of people saying, hey, this might be the potential bottom. So these signals getting blown past here on Intel, consistent higher lows, and now you're breaking through that pivot level. Same thing here with NVDA. IBIT coming back towards the volume weighted average price as well too, guys. So we're finding that bottom, and a double one at that here on the SPY at 731. Not too bad of a look whatsoever. So with that being said, said, come on, financials, let's get this ball rolling. With that uptick, did we climb higher on CrowdStrike? I would love to know that. 622, not really. 244 on Pan Dub. So that was hitting all-time highs this morning or yesterday as well. So $250, not too bad. Hey, Joe, don't throw. Okay, yeah, my bad. Yeah, my bad. I'll let you guys hyper-focus because I know you and Mike P need to focus as well. But other than that, guys, I mean, we can go through our watch list. We've been running through our scanner. I might have to switch over to small cap land to find some form of momentum here. There's a name that I had on my radar, and I don't think it is anymore. It was forming a bull flag in the pre-market. RKLZ. This is 2x. Oh, a Rocket Lab, short Rocket Lab ETF. That's interesting. IREZ, was that it? No. MVTD, CODX. I like that name. Every time I hear that word CODX, it just reminds me of General Zhao or whatever his name is from Man of Steel. Other than that, Lyra, oh, okay, that's what I have for my savings, my retirement account. And Combat, what's going on with this here? CB Tech, 1692, not too bad of a look, guys. A steady ABCD pattern. You're now north of the volume-weighted average price, opening up around 1587, so you're getting a little bit more than $1 right there. That's 7% to the top side. Not too bad. I mean, I was looking at some of the other tech names here today. I'm not in love with them. Pretty choppy if you ask me. Obviously, the SPY and the NASDAQ, you had that initial selling in the overall market right out of the gate. And if that's the case, I mentioned earlier that, yeah, once USO and all of this war stuff is back into play, I don't know what it is, just I'd come completely out of sync, and that's when you go over here on Tesla. 1340, it did hit target. That would have been nice to engage in it one more time. That's why you have to be patient. I felt that I was earlier today, but that wasn't necessarily the case. But I'm glad that we haven't pulled too many triggers here today, because that's going to give us the opportunity to put on 1 or 2 solid trades, and we're right back in this game. So you'll see me grinding throughout the whole session, and we're going to wait for that high quality opportunity and setup to fall right onto our lap, like I've been preaching since day one, pretty much.
All right, into 54.64 GIPR goes. So I got this one wrong. I was of the opinion we hadn't cleared 50 by sufficient amount of distance to be able to use it as support. Now we did. Multiple bottoming tail candles through 50 into 56, 54.64. I'm going to look for a profit taker here at 55, and then we're going to hold the rest. I was of the opinion that this one would retrace south of 50, which would give me an opportunity to pick up some more. That obviously wasn't the case. We're continuing to put in higher lows here relative to the bar at 1125. We are currently on the 1135 bar. So let's see what 55 has to offer us. While we look at that, let's also look at this CERS. So when I just gave you into another high of day, into 269 it goes. It is not making the move down into the 10 EMA on the 5, which is currently sitting at 264. So you likely will have to get in, I don't know, towards the low end of the bar with your stop just immediately below, if not at, quite frankly, the 10 EMA on the 5, seeing as it hasn't touched it all day. Why put it below? So 269, this one gets into 3/4. Perhaps we see some resistance taking us back down, maybe into 2/3, perhaps not. CERS, not a volume leader, but certainly one to watch. NXXT is failing here and failing pretty quickly. So it looks like that 58 penny, a random level, quite frankly, acted as a key area of technical resistance with no closing prints on the 5-minute chart above that 58 penny level. Most notably, though, is not the importance of that 58 penny level, but it's the loss of the 1045 bar low, the low of which was 51.45. The current bar low is 51.32, so not a major breach here, but it's showing you that basically we are on the way down, possibly. Now, having said that, I would be very, very, interested to see whether or not this low 51 penny area acts as an area of support. Meaning what? Meaning that would be the low end of the range, the extreme, and that we could possibly, who knows, move back into 58 pennies. If that's the move, then that's an excellent risk to reward ratio. Why? Because you're in at 53.5. The low of this candle is 51 1/3. To make what? To make a move into 58. That jives with my math. I don't know how you guys feel about that. So we're going to keep a close eye here on NXXT, but there again goes both CERS into 2 3/4, and there goes GIPR into 56 pennies. They're both on the move. They're both ones we earmarked. Watch out for the $2 move here on CERS. Be patient with this one, though. It is not a fast mover, even though it did rip up there from 67 to 74, something basically it hadn't done since about 10:15 this morning. In fact, this current candle that we're on is actually larger than that 10:15 candle in a notional sense. So we're going to keep a close eye here on both of these ones. I'm displeased with the volume that CERS is putting on the day. I'm very pleased with the price action, Joe. So let's keep an eye out on this one.
All right, man. Nice look. I see a lot of people talking about GIPR in the chat. Let's take a gander. Maybe we get involved in that one. But what we do have is Bitcoin heading towards the volume-weighted average price. Maybe we get buyers to kick in here once again. IBIT, GIPR. We can find some good quality opportunities up to 55 cents. Not bad whatsoever here, guys. You're getting a pretty big rate, 93 to the tune of 93%, a little bit more. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty quiet. What am I going to do here? I'm not going to try to, you want to get the lower end of this consolidation. Are we going to be trading the SPY? Probably not. Steady uptrend here in Intel. Bitcoin slowly starting to come back in. This is a key level, I think, and a key pivot moment. If you don't see some aggressive buying eventually, it's going to get really dangerous. So how we closed yesterday, 43.11, I would want us to see us enter this gap. Obviously, we know with Bitcoin 24/7, but at this open right here at 43.79, we want to breach that and close this for some signs of strength. If not, I'm going to have to stick with the narrative that Bitcoin's going to be relatively weak for probably quite some time. I know some people are saying by the summer we're going to hit all-time highs. I mean, that's right around the corner. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. Next year in 2027, yeah, I think it might take that long. Like we talked about it when IBIT first came to market, the lengthy consolidations that this thing was going on. And I understand that you get these big moves, but you have to be prepared and sit and wait, position yourself relatively well in order to participate in those larger moves. And do you really want to when you're going through like 2, 3, sometimes even 8 months with the longest period of consolidation being that long, of just sitting there watching it go up and down and trade within this range? I know I personally don't. So yeah, I'm not in love with it, but I'm not going to kick it when it's down. And I think that's what the kind of the boat that we're sitting in right now. There goes IBIT heading right low. I'm glad we didn't punch that volume weighted average price long. Nice recovery on Intel, and same thing with NVDA. Hopefully that's going to help drag the overall market up, and you can see that the SPY is about to breach the volume weighted average price. We're north of that on the NASDAQ. So yeah, I mean, there is opportunities. Have we captured any at this moment? Not this second, but SoFi, let's see what you're doing all the way down there. Not too strong. Robinhood, we went over there. Marvell, $152, now printing a new high of the day. So here it is. Custom ASICs right here coming into play, $174.34 on Marvell.
All right, GIPR into 58.82, just south of 59 pennies. I will put a profit taker as there as well, but we are talking mostly about the 2/3 of a dollar. Now, this is the first topping tail candle I think we put in since the candle at 10:40. It's an hour later. It's 11:42. Watch out here. This is not the end all and be all, as we often say, with the topping tail candle manifesting on the small cap gapper chart. Reason being, this is an intraday trade. The majority of the volume that's coming in on these on the day is intraday volume. Meaning what? Meaning it won't be around after 4 o'clock for the most part, unless this runs in the aftermarket. So what does that mean? What does that have to do with the topping tail candle? Well, people got to take profits. It's entirely different if you see that on a large cap like the MEG 7. Number one, for a couple of reasons. You don't typically get topping tail candles unless there's a problem. Number two, it takes a lot more money to put in a topping tail candle on a MEG 7 name that's several $1 trillion than it does on GIPR over here, which has a lowly market value of what is this thing? It is 3.56 million market cap. So essentially $3.6 million market cap. So what does that mean? That means that we may not get the failure like we would as a result of these topping tail candles, like we would on a small cap or on a large cap. So watching intently here for a possible move back down into 50. If we don't, then I may have to add above 60 pennies. which is something I don't want to do. I want to watch intently here to see whether CERS actually retraces back down into the low 70s, high 60s. That's going to be my entry. I don't want to punch in at the highs on CERS simply because it hasn't done enough volume. I don't really know if I can trust this one at the moment. I haven't seen enough yet. So that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And as I mentioned earlier, NXXT seems to have support in and around the 51 penny area. And here it is again, now knocking on the door, 54 pennies. My advice for anybody holding this long off the low is 57 to 58 pennies. In fact, probably south of 58 should be where you're looking at getting in profits. Are we going to Adara?
Yes.
Okay.
Apple headline here, guys. AAPL on watch, seeing reports that their new hardware boss is shaking up oversight of product design. So basically what happens here is the senior vice president here of Apple, Johnny Cerrugi, is reorganizing management to accelerate device development. There's going to be an individual named Bergeron taking charge of product reliability. Apple's also appointing Shelley Goldberg and Dave Pacula to lead product design after we have this new hardware head restructuring oversight. So it sounds like, again, the whole role of this oversight, or the point of this oversight rather, is to speed up development of new products. So Apple here with an interesting reorganizational plan to make product development a bit speedier. We'll have to wait and see if this actually makes an impact, but either way, AAPL and watch today, guys.
So let's pull up Apple here and take a little bit more of a look into it. Yes, we do, Rich Buddy. I agree with that one. Now, AAPL, figure that bad boy out. Not too bad. I mean, it typically, I mean, like, so you have this strong drive and no continuation, but one thing that we can take from a positive side of things is that look at the volume and the strength. It really starts to cool off. So if we're fortunate enough, we get that tweet or something happens along those lines where you get a catalyst step into this name, I think you can start to climb a little bit higher. We are talking about $310 as a potential level by the end of the week. And I mean, I don't think that's out of the picture. That is quite a bit of a move, the way that more that I look at it now. But hey, man, options chain, it's been working. We found the support levels on MU and SanDisk, DRAM as well. So hey, man, we'll go with that one. Rocket Lab, another name, down substantially here off of this high. I shouldn't say substantially, but it's still down 17% off of that previous pivot high. And the same thing with Micron. I'm glad that it's finding a little bit of its footing, but I still wouldn't chase it. Even though you're down 18%, you're still down 13%. I think you'll be able to get it around $600 or so. Sean and I were saying 550. There was a support level at 650 here this morning. So, I mean, just be patient, sell those CSPs if you have the cash on hand, and wait for that level to just come to you. Now, as for Tesla, not doing too much right now. 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive days here in a row to the downside after it put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 consecutive green days. Does nothing for a couple, and then boom, flush. Yeah, man, oh man, I don't know about this name. Sometimes it's just extremely volatile. We did sell it at one point, and until there's actual revenue being generated from Optimus and Cybercab, I'm going to stay away from it because I sold it right around where we're currently sitting at right now, and I have no issues with being more patient on this name, that's for sure. Actually, no, it was more or less around here. I think it was like $280 I sold it at, so $100 or so away from where we're currently trading at. It's not too bad whatsoever, but I mean, if it breaks and continues to sell, look at this up and down in this name. There's some volatility. And then AMD, a name that we haven't really talked too much about here today. We'll pull that bad boy up and see what we got going on. $472. You pull back all the way down to $395. That's 16 and a quarter almost on this name. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit more downside. We have that just parabolic trend right now, bouncing off of it technically. Now, if you get any form of an open on the backside of it, 390 or less, watch out for a little bit more of a pullback here in AMD.
All right, man. GIPR has a buyer here. So just speaking to Luis in the chat, Luis says his traders are starting to short GIPR, and I can completely see why. I'm not arguing with that. What I said to him was I'm looking for a decisive failure of 50. Couple of reasons for that. First and foremost, obviously that 50 penny area, key area of psychological support and or resistance, depending on whether you're coming from the south or the north. Moreover, the 10 EMA on the 5 also overlapping with 50, so you get that double whammy. However, having said that, I need to point out that the candle 1135, 1140, 1145 has a buyer at the low. What is that low? 52.50 on the 1135, 52.70 on the 1140, and 52.69 on the 1145 bar. There's a buyer in and around the low mid 52s. It is losing it now, though. There's the breach of prior bar low. So now you have a topping tail candle and you have a red candle that breached prior bar low. That doesn't change my theory about 50. I'm continuing to watch for 50. I'm not going to be getting short, but I will be looking for a pickup off 42, as I've mentioned many times. 42, an interesting area of support for me. Moreover, if it happens to be that by the time the price action of GIPR gets into 42 and the volume weighted average price has moseyed on up from 40 and change into 42, that will give me even more confidence in the long there. So that's all predicated, again, upon it losing 50 pennies, and then we can have discussion at what 42 means and where the hell VWAP is. We'll talk about that. NXXT is on the move again. I'm lamenting not having gotten into this at 51. It was such an obvious range, especially with the green candle that engulfed essentially the prior red candle, and here it is at 56.60. Now, I'm not looking for a breakout trade on this, simply because it failed 58 breakout earlier and then actually lost VWAP. So the best approach, in my humble submission, on NXXT is to pick it up at the lower end in the same way, but with tighter restrictions to short in and around 58. If that comes back in, as you've seen, it's been a very staunchy area of resistance. However, for the shorts, you need to view it in the wider time frame. This is a bull flag, meaning that that's a bullish pattern. So if you're getting in short at the high end of the range, by definition, that is more risk for you because of the bullish pattern and the fact that it's up on the day. NXXT is up about 34.33%. So that's what I'm looking at there. I'm very interested in NXXT, but not ready to execute yet. Sadly, CORD is blocked on our system. Otherwise, I'd be trying to attempt a VWAP entry here. Whatever. CBRG, though, continues to do quite well. Now, this one had me a little bamboozled. Let me explain why. So I do see the 1550 support from the earlier bull flag at 935, essentially to 1025, but we did breach it. And we did get into that $0.75. So I was hesitant when this one failed 3/4 and got into half. I thought we were probably going to head back down to 15, and that's where I actually put my dip trade on CBRG. I was wrong. In fact, it was just a momentary breach of 15.5, and I should have been more alive to the fact that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles all rejected that 1550 area, and I should have been putting my order at 1550 with a tighter stop, mind you, perhaps into the $0.25, then waiting for the move down into 15. So CBRG got this one wrong, never executed on it, so I didn't lose any money, but opportunity cost loss there. CERS as well does not give me an opportunity for entry. I put in a 69 dip trade. That doesn't look like it's going to come back in. Up into 73 it goes, high of day 74. So great strength on this one. And GIPR, come on, bro. Drop a little bit down. Let's go. It's coming back into 55s. We'll see if this one's got the juice to go into 60. I do nothing here on GIPR. I either wait for the loss into 42 or I wait for the move into 2/3 show.
All right, man. I'm just typing something in the chat here. Because you know how they you know what I mean? You know, they say the more you do something, the more you're going to find out there, Jesse. So just keep doing what you're doing and you're going to find out, that's for sure. My God. Honestly, Joseph, that's how, exactly. Anyways, aside from that, guys, let's head right over and see how Uber and some of the other names are performing here today. DoorDash to the downside. And then we also have Uber. Let's take Chipotle. Man, oh man, Chipotle. I mean, I was at Chipotle a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, usually they, I'm like, hey man, add a little bit more steak in there, and they do it without any questions asked. And there's this young kid working there. I'm like, all right, yo, my guy, add a little bit more steak. And he's like, what, you want double the protein? I'm like, bro, come on, don't play that stuff with me. Just add the steak. Anyways, aside from that, let's take a look at Uber. Good story, right? Uber, off of the lows here, not performing very well. Our guy Mateo has this as one of our picks. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. This might be our time to engage in IBIT. I don't know if we're going to break the volume-weighted average price here. It's just continuously rejecting it. And if we look boom, downtrend, and then we're starting to form a little bit of a wedge. So maybe we just avoid that one. I'm not liking the way anything is going right now and or looking, to be honest with you. It's just like, okay, we're grinding higher, but I feel at some point it's just like a matter of time until it's like cue the next truth and some volatility, or somebody says something and this market just goes absolutely nuts in a specific direction. This is more or less a cover rally, in my opinion. As you climb, you fail to establish a new high. Same thing with INTC. Inverted hammer candle right there. I was thinking about shorting it off of that level, but I didn't, so that's shoulda, coulda, woulda. And the same thing with SPY, now coming back south of the volume-weighted average price in the Qs. So it's really quiet for me right now as the market has a lot of overlapping candles, and that's not what I'm looking for. I want to see a nice steady trend. You get that pullback, and sure enough, you can engage in whatever direction the underlying asset is actually moving in, but I'm just not seeing that right now, and I think that's okay. I had that hunch this morning. I was like, man, why did all that volatility have to step in around the close yesterday? Just literally when we went long NVDA, we were fortunate enough to be on the right side of things, and just goes boom, absolutely nuts. As Donald Trump says, a lot of the Gulf countries are saying, hey man, don't go through with that attack, because you know the cost of oil continuously going up, and we want to find somewhat of a resolution to this conflict. As I mentioned multiple times before, it's going to take a lot longer than what we're anticipating, considering if you're talking about dropping bombs once again, or just a little touch here and there, which I find slightly odd. Just have to get his 2 cents in, which can get annoying at times, but hey, is what it is. Down to the downside, or back to the downside we go here on Tesla. USO, we can take a look at that as it's climbing higher, so that's typically negative for equities here.
All right, man. One thing that's glaringly obvious on the day is the strength in the biotech sector. If we can show the screen, biotech decidedly green, whether or not you were up before the bell or after the bell. And the reason I'm saying that is when you look at semiconductors, for example, majority of them red on the day, but the second column, I'm talking about this column, that's change since open. So that's whether we're up or down after 9:30. You can see semis really kind of recovering with the majority green after the open. However, it's a bit of a different bag here for biotech. You got Lilly up 2.5%. Pfizer's up 2%. VRTX also up 1.25%. The only red name on my watch list anyway is Moderna, 3 1/3 in the negative. Regeneron, Johnson & Johnson, Amgen, AbbVie, Novo Nordisk, Merck, Novartis. They're all in Greensville. So if you're looking for strength in a sector and you don't really want to trade small cap gappers, look no further than biotech. Very strong on the day. In fact, they're green since the open as well. So for example, case in point, Lilly up 2.5% on the day and up 2 1/3 since the open. Not bad. We'll see what that one has to offer. But I'm just going to continue to watch here. CERS, give me a break, dude. Back into 269, I was like, okay, we're going to get that 267. Right into 275. CERS continues to print higher highs and higher lows and still has not touched the 10 moving average on the 5. It continues to be quite strong. If we break through 75, then my bias absolutely, there it is, into $3, 276 here, CERS. And the thing is, it's done enough volume to be able to get in several thousand shares. You're not having a liquidity issue, nor are you having to fight a wide spread. So the more I watch this, the more I'm getting all sorts of FOMO here, especially because I haven't executed on it. But CERS, a good one nonetheless. I want to mention a new one here that I was able to find off the scanner, CMBT. Another one very respectful of trend with only one breach of the 10 EMA right at 10:55 just before we got onto the show. Probably why I didn't put this on. Didn't look very good at 11 o'clock when I was going through my scanners, but look at that clean hold right at 11 a.m. at the 10 EMA, and basically that low there was 16.43. We've added almost 60 pennies with a $17 high, so very good area structure here for CMBT, one to look at if, again, you were small cap gapper inclined. CBRG, I did have a look at this one. I don't know how to feel. Okay, so let me make my case. I was looking for a move back into 15.25, simply because that's what we got at the 11.25 bar. What I negated to think about, though, was what if the eventuality is a higher low? And that's exactly what we got. And now we got a clean hold of 15.50 and up into 15.81. It looks like it's basically ranging here with about $0.50 as support and $0.25 as resistance. I mean, 15.50 support, 16.25 resistance. That gives us 75 pennies worth of range that we can trade without even having to look for a breakout or a breakdown. So this one is also of interest to me. If you want to get in here, 15.81, reasonable price, given that 16.25 is the obvious area of resistance, with a stop below 15.50. In fact, I've talked myself into this one. Let's put CBRG over here, and we're going to risk that amount with a stop, as I mentioned, below 15.50. That gives us that many shares so that we can kind of execute on that one. CERS continue to make highs, guys, into 277. Likewise, GIPR back into 50. Good trade by your traders there, Luis, who took this short, I think, at around 55 to 56. I'm going to ride this down all the way into 42. Stops me out at 42. Which is fine because that's where we're looking to get a little bit more, Joe.
All right, man, good stuff. No, Maya and Mello. Oh, okay, I like that one. No, I think you got around, so you're 25. You got seven to 8 more years, man. So cherish that time and have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, it happened quick, dude. It was just like in the span of a year or two, it was gone. So, I mean, it is what it is, and somewhat comical. All right, guys, you know what time it is. It's happening now, and then Neil with his lesson of the day.
Here's this market, guys, just chopping, honestly, if you look at the 15-minute chart, a little bit up, a little bit down. What I can tell you without a doubt is there's resistance at 734. NASDAQ here, looking a little bit different from the SPY, a little bit more of an upward trajectory here from the lows than what we're seeing on the S&P 500, at least on the 15-minute charts. And I have to talk about oil, too. OIL, I don't know why I said it like that, USO, however you want to look at oil here, guys, this is bouncing quite nicely off the lows, though still removed from these pre-market highs and very much removed from yesterday's highs. And we know there has been a lot of movement here in the oil and in the market from comments made by President Trump on the state of the conflict with Iran. Today, President Trump saying that they could give Iran another hit, as he put it, but he's not sure if they will. And they have a couple days until next week, so roughly 2 days to 7 days to decide this, in his opinion. So we're going to have to wait and see, but there could be more escalation here in Iran. Do keep an eye on USO, and keep an eye on tradertv.live for comments about USO, because I'll always be reporting them to you. Keep an eye as well on Google, GOOGL, or GOOG, whatever floats your boat. Either way, Alphabet's holding its I.O., Google I.O. 2026 conference. That's going to be at 1 p.m. That's the keynote here. Now, a lot is actually happening at 1 p.m. We also have the second day of the Dell keynote at 1 p.m. featuring, along with, of course, Dell professionals. You have an OpenClaw executive and Thomas Kurian, CEO of Google Cloud. So at the same time the I.O. event is happening, Google Cloud CEO at a different company's event. Also at 1 p.m. you have J.D. Vance having a White House press briefing. So super busy time at 1 p.m. I'll be listening to all of those as best I can and providing you guys with updates. TSLA did not move on this headline, so this came out around 11:25 a.m. But Electric reporting that Tesla is going to be building its giant solar panel factory in Houston, Texas. Keep an eye on solar plays and certainly keep an eye on TSLA with this news in mind. And guys, last but not least, earnings after the bell today. I mean, tomorrow you're going to get NVIDIA. Tomorrow morning you're going to get Target, TJX, and Lowe's. But tonight you get Kava, CAVA. You can grab this earnings preview on X at TTV Research. But if you're hungry for not Kava, but for knowledge, or if you're hungry for Kava and knowledge, I don't care, you can go stick with us for Neil's lesson of the day. Neil, what is today's lesson?
We got the salad that's got some chickpeas in there with the corn. And it looks pretty good. There's like a boatload of chicken and just the most simple chicken and potatoes. I already started digging into it, but I'm not done. And it looks pretty good. But we had a discussion today that I wanted to not clarify, but expand upon. Because I think a lot of times what will happen is like you're trading, you're looking at the markets, we'll get a good comment or whatever it might be, and it's a topic worth a little bit of a deeper discussion. But like in the moment, you don't get a chance to collect your thoughts when you're live. And sometimes you can rush to an answer. And I looked back and it was the comment about like the daily goal. And I had a question to our viewer. It's like, oh, are you prop? Are you retail? Like, how do you set a daily goal? Because a retail trader will have like an account. You could just have like, this is the size of my account. And maybe you're swinging, maybe you're day trading. you have to sort of set your own risk parameters. Whereas on a prop desk, like oftentimes you will have your own risk parameters. And then Sean brought up the whole, but the goal is just the amount that you need to make to get funded. So I was like, how can we work that? And I realized there is a direct parallel at real trading. So without getting too much into this, the concept being, what I look at things, it doesn't, whether it's a daily goal, whether it's a profit target, any amount that you make in trading, to me, the reference point, and I think that's what Luis was getting at in the chat, the reference point for that has to be some kind of a downside in some ways. So it's, like sometimes it'll be if you set yourself a daily loss limit, maybe you want to make sure that your target for the day is 2x your daily loss limit or 1.5 or something that would hopefully be better than or bigger than your daily loss limit. But if you are looking at, let's say, you have some funded account saying, hey, if you make $100 a day for a month, then you're a funded account, right? Like that gives you a line that you're trying to cross. Well, how much daily risk are they allowing you with that? I can tell you at real trading that if you look at when it starts out, the amount you need to make to the graduation, how we used to have it here, to become a full-time trader, which some would call funded, but here it gets called full-time trader and has for a long time on the floor. That amount that you need to make, your starting daily loss limit, and it can rise with performance, but your starting daily loss limit will be about 50% of that. So here's where that becomes important. If you're engaging in a strategy which is trying to accomplish that fixed amount per day on average, well, you have to consider that loss limit in mind. Let's say you back test a strategy. I'm going to use the easiest numbers because $100 is just so simple to use. So in this case, you need to make $100 a day for a month, let's just say, which is similar to the kind of thing you'd try to do at real trading to get funded, graduated. And your risk limit will be about $50 a day to do that, let's just say. So if you back test a strategy or in the simulator test a strategy out and it makes you $100 a day or gets to that $100 level, remember what the other side of that is. If in the process of doing that it draws down 75, well, you'd have been flattened. If it consistently goes against you 50 before working. So anytime, that's the really important thing, and this is what I was trying to get at. Everything in life is trade-offs. Everything. You could show me something where you're trying to get a positive that there isn't a trade-off, right? You're trying to make money, you got to work. You got to work hours, right? You're a baseball player. You're trying to hit a home run. Sometimes you're going to swing and miss. You're going to make outs, right? So it's like how much. What do you do versus the other? And I think in trading, that's the part that can get a little bit lost. And I've seen traders backtest a strategy, let's just say, and it'll be like this equity curve that will be, okay, well, this is just the raw. If I do X and blah, 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 does it make or does it make in these days? Does it lose on those days? And then the thing that actually gets lost if you apply that intraday strategy is, well, okay, so on this one day where it made a small amount of money in the strategy, but did it draw down that if you were actually trading it, you couldn't have held that against you? You would have taken the L? Because then that update doesn't really mean anything in your equity curve, and you can't use it. And it doesn't mean anything also when you're doing your testing. That's the thing that can get lost when you're back testing a strategy or developing a strategy for you. If to make that 100 and you will only have, say, $50 worth of risk, maybe you have 100 worth of risk, but it draws down 150 before it makes you the 100, then you might just have a day which in your data shows you $100 up. But you're not actually able to use that when you come into practice. Those are actually down days for you. And then what'll end up happening to those traders is they think that they've got a consistent strategy, but the amount that they draw down when they deploy that strategy is just going to be too much. And that was the point that I was trying to get at. And I'm only really stressing it because, as I said last week many times, this is something that 100% is the reason why we talk about 90% of traders fail, 95% of traders fail. It's stuff like that. It's not just about being undisciplined. It's not just about not willing to trade with a stop or not having an out. There is also the fundamental traders that even can develop something that can make them money, just don't have proper risk management. And part of that comes from how they're even measuring their trades or how they're developing in this simulator. And that's a tricky thing, because if you're in a simulator, like if you use a simulator at real trading, you will have the same risk parameters that you will when you're live. But what if that's not true and you have to develop your paper trading yourself as a retail trader? Then you have to make sure when you're developing that strategy that you don't have it drawing down more than what is reasonable to achieve that positive goal before you take it live. Otherwise, the second you hit pitfalls, they're going to be a little bit too big. So I just, in my opinion, and again, everyone's going to be different. And I'm in the chat, if there's anybody in the chat that if you reference a goal for how much you're trying to make or to get funded or whatever it might be, and it's not within reference to a downside and it works for you, I'd love to hear it. That's why I was asking the question. It's genuine curiosity, because I always peg it to, okay, well, this trade, I'm risking X. I need it when it works perfectly to make at least 2X. When it works decently to make 1-to-1. Like that's why, like if a move goes halfway, I want to at least be flat on the trade. If it goes all the way, I want to be at like 2-to-1. Little things like this are what matter to me. And then the drawdown is a big effect of it as well. Like how much do you have to hold it against you to make whatever you do? So again, just giving the 2 cents out there, because I do think that applies to, it's a kind of thinking that applies to retail trading, funded trading, prop trading, all of it across the board. And I don't know if that got through before. So I want to make sure that's the case. I'm going to finish up my lunch. It's weird. I'm not sure how this is Greek, because it's literally just potatoes and barbecue chicken. Like this is just, yeah. And it was a good portion of barbecue. Like I've barely eaten half of this. Like it's a lot of chicken. So I got to give it up to the amount of protein that we got today in lunch. We'll see you guys back at 2. Good luck in trading the rest of your day. Hopefully this market can chew through VWAP. It'd be nice to see a little bit more strength.
But I hear on Micron, SanDisk, Seagate, WDC, anything in the memory space, we're hearing more about the negotiations through the labor negotiations with Samsung. Seeing reports that Samsung and union negotiations are expected to conclude by Wednesday morning, specifically at 10 a.m. KST, which is roughly 9 p.m. EST. So we're going to hear about that by tonight. According to the mediator, apparently there's still one major issue that Samsung has yet to resolve with the union. Also, if you are a Forex trader, I just checked JPY USD. It's not really doing anything. We're getting comments from Finance Minister Katayama of Japan saying, quote, "We are ready to take decisive action on Forex." Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. All right, NCERS here, looking for a hold of said 10 EMA. This is the first time we got in. I mean, I missed the boat on this one, but we are still south of that $3 level. So I have aspirations that we do get up into the mid to high 90s, perhaps even 3. We'll see what we get on this one. Stop out through 270. We've got 79 on now, so we'll risk 9 pennies to try and make 25. We'll see what we get on that one. Continuing to watch simultaneously GIPR as it loses all sorts of levels, but I'm very interested, as I've mentioned multiple times already on the show, for that 42 penny level, which is now conflating with the volume at weighted average price. So that's why I'm liking this, because we get that double support, right? We got that volume weighted average price showing 42, and we have, as you can clearly see here on the 1 minute chart, we were not able to really clear that 42 penny area quite decisively until basically just right after I got in there, we decisively cleared it into 44. So if it was an area, a key area, I should say, of technical support, I'm now looking for it to be resistance. We'll see what we get here, Joey. Still up 90%.
Yeah, it's up nice, man. Nice trade there on GIPR. Luis telling me, hey, man, we got that short. Sharif had that long. So we talk about having the ability to make money in both directions when trading. That's a prime example. So nice long throughout that trade. And then sure enough, when things start to turn around, you have other individuals looking at the opposite end of things, and boom, you get that nice little move to the downside. So yeah, nice work there, guys. Blicky, I see what you were saying. That is very true, man. Just stick to what your strategy, and sure enough, at some point, the thing is, you'll adapt, right? You'll manipulate it a little bit. It'll change, and you have to be prepared to be somewhat malleable when you are trading, because the same thing doesn't work day in, day out. What I've been doing for the past 5 days clearly didn't work for me here today. Stock selection, extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. If you're not in the right things at the right time, then unfortunately things just aren't going to work for you. My strat says go outside today. Yeah, there you go. You know how we like trees, and it's nice. It's nice out today, so I'm going to try to get out there before it rains. I don't see anything that I'm overly excited about right now. USO moving up. You have the market not really doing anything. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing starts to head towards the high of the day, an all-time high. It's been a steady grind there. What has the VIX been up to? Nothing substantial. We had a low of around $17.68. We're now at $18. So no extreme fear stepping into the market. Palantir, a name that we often talk about, not today, but still in this steady downtrend. And until it breaks, Neil and I were going over multiple examples. Palantir, you have that downside trend. You want to wait until you sit on the backside of things, and then sure enough, maybe you'll find somewhat of a recovery. This is textbook essentially here on CrowdStrike. It tested on multiple attempts here, and then off to the races, printing all-time highs. Now turning the tide big time on CRWD with a high of around 634, and then now you're at 615. So a little bit tougher of a look there on CrowdStrike. Google, same thing. Listen, if these stocks continue to pull back, NVDA, I'm just going to continuously buy more and more. That's my narrative, especially the strong ones, especially and for the next couple of years, right? As long as this CapEx remains elevated, I'm going to like this whole AI trade. TKO Holdings, we went through that. Nano Nuclear, there's nothing really going on exciting there. Nike and some of the retail names we were talking about, like Lululemon, when's this going to turn around? We have no idea. It's not horrible on the day, but just continuously on its slide. And man, oh man, it's really tough. 226 to 120, so that's almost cut in half again, 46%. Down even a little bit more off of this all-time high here in Lululemon. Just a tough investment. $515, no split in between. You're down 75% off of the all-time high. It's going to take a lot for that to recover. And then as for the financial, same thing. It's just somewhat of a discount. Just because the sector and the space isn't in play right now doesn't mean it's not going to. You zoom out, you're on the monthly. And I know we like to look at the bigger picture, but if you go back to 09, that's nothing crazy, but still, right? Like you go back to 2009 and you're getting 881% in XLF, which is typically a safer play and not much volatility within that. JP Morgan still holding south of $300. And Walmart, yes, someone pointed this one out. Walmart hitting an all-time high here today, north of $134 and still continuing to climb, almost up to $135. Let's go Walmart, man. Not too bad of a look. And we're talking about some of the rotation into staples when you see it come out of tech. With that being said, before we send it back to Sharif, let's take a look at some of the top performing sectors here today and see what we got going on, bang. And what do we have here, guys? At the top of the list, healthcare leading the way, utilities, energy, and then staples holding on to green. And then sure enough, basic materials, consumer discretionary, and the tech sector down 1% there, guys. So a little bit tougher of a look in the tech space.
All right, good look here for CERS into 87. We're long 77s. Happy that I finally made it into this trade. I thought it was going to kind of go without me here. Looking for that move now into 3. Okay, so that's going to be the move. We're looking for that push into the whole dollar level. I do, of course, expect resistance at said whole dollar level. It's not up big. It's up 17%. But what really caught my attention was the stability of the trend. Typically, you know, with these small cap gappers or small cap gapper-like stocks that show up on your scanner, they're usually all over the map, again, because they are intraday trades for the most part, meaning that traders are getting in and getting out large amount of shares intraday. That causes a lot of price volatility. This one really hasn't shown that. Now, it may change. Who knows? If it loses 75 pennies, I'm out. I'm in at 77, but we already made 1R and then some, and now we're looking for 2R, quite frankly. So we'll see what CERS has to offer. Loses 75, that an area that I perceive to be a good area of technical support will end the trade. Let's look at the other one that I'm in right now. GIPR, well off the highs. It is a 58.82 high. I'm talking pennies, not dollars, but it seems to have some support here. At least for the last, I want to say 15 minutes or so, or almost 15 minutes, there's been a buyer at 45 pennies. That's not the area that it earmarked. You'll recall me basically just pounding the table here about 42 pennies. So I need to watch and see what this one is telling me as opposed to what I think it's going to do. And if we continue bleeding, I'm fine with that. I stop out at 42.90, so we lock in a penny and change in terms of what's left, and then I wait to see, does the trend turn around, right? Or are we going to lose 42, lose 40? Maybe we're going back down at 28.63. Who the hell knows? 28.63 is the low of the day, by the way. That's why I threw that out there. But my observation initially was going to be looking for that level at 42 pennies. Let's see if that holds. But thank you to Grunfeld as well for pointing out WNW. I did have eyes on this one. I didn't put it on the side chart because, well, you can tell. The majority of the morning was trading below the volume weighted average price with a failed attempt to reclaim the VWAP at 10.15 and 10.20. That has now changed. Not only are we above that 10.15, 10.20 level, which was in and around 6, but we've reclaimed VWAP. We're on the way to the $0.50, so it seems official high of the day, 639. That's all the good news there on WNW. And by the way, it's up 156%. Who can complain about that? The problem, though, is that we had an aggressive move very early on at 5:20 a.m. Look at this. The low of the candle is $2.78. The high of the candle is $8.85. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see that again. And not only are we unlikely to see that kind of parabolic move again in the way that we saw at 5 a.m., but we also have these candles on good volume. 625,000 shares on that candle, 592,000 on that one, 300 in this one, 417 on that one. The point is, there was good amount of volume there in the pre-market. So what does that mean? Why am I talking about that? Because you're going to have possibly, of course, always bag holders, those who were long at those levels early on, who are substantially out of the money now, and they're going to be looking to get the hell out every time this makes an uptick. So be on the lookout here for WNW. It's already failing 6, coming back down into 5 mid-80s. We'll see what this one has to offer. But I'm very interested in WNW if it sets up the right way. And I need to observe it a little bit more, right? I'm just getting acquainted with this one. I don't really know what the technical levels of support and resistance are. You got to watch it on the tape. You got to see where the buyers are stepping in and any repeat areas. So I want to point out WNW here for those who are interested. And last but not least, before we throw it back to Joey, I don't know why, but the buyers are stepping in at 45 pennies, random area in my opinion, on GIPR. Again, I was earmarking that 42. I've got barely any shares left. If this starts rocketing up and taking 50 and start putting some higher highs and higher lows, we're going to have to punch in at the highs because clearly we didn't get 42. So watching that, watching CERS, Joey.
Over there, the way you were talking about WNW, I had to pull that up here. I'm slightly intrigued. Volume starting to uptick, but it is heading right towards the volume-weighted average price with some momentum. All right, we got a $10 super chat. Dave Zamzi's trade idea of the day: read Midsummer Night's Dreams. The markets are Puck and MU is Oberon. I'm assuming Adara's read this. She knows the reference. I have no idea what's going on over there. Listen, I love to read, but you're telling me I have to read this whole book in order to understand this? I mean,
It's actually a Shakespeare play with multiple film adaptations. You could also watch it. One of them stars Stanley Tucci as Puck.
Okay.
Solid.
Is it
No,
Romeo?
it's not Romeo.
It's not Romeo and Juliet, says Fabian. All right, man, good stuff. Thank you very much for that. I will look into it. There's a couple of movies that Adara's referring to. We have our eye on some of these small cap names, looking for some momentum plays. That's what I like here. And I'm not, I mean, there's a couple attempts to get involved with NVDL. We got out here, that's nothing. But then we're holding VWAP pretty tight. I just feel that we're chopping around within this zone. So if we're going to play, we have to get at the lower end, 112.26. This thing is just absolute. This leverage product is crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, as for $113, there's clearly a resistance zone right there. And that's going to be correlating with the $221 on the actual underlying asset. So we have to be extremely patient on that one and see if the chat understands this. A reference here, Aku, some other stuff going on. Markets are Puck. That's a good one. Fluffy Hippo understands. Okay, what do you think about WNW? We were just talking about it, Ted G. We're waiting for this pullback. Maybe buyers start to step in once again, but we have breached the volume-weighted average price, and momentum is starting to slowly pick up, right? And you can see the volume. I've seen it stair step higher. I'm like, okay, this is what we're looking for. When you're having that breakout, there's multiple things that you want to correlate. Are you punching through resistance zones? Is that volume really starting to stair step in? But now we're being met by equal resistance, and you can see that through the volume by time as it really starts to uptick, and you're starting to whoosh, are flushed down. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It might not be the trade that Sharif was talking about for me personally. Maybe we'll find a little bit of an entry. I'll continue to listen on what he's got going on over there. And then there's Cyborg, rolling, holding VWAP. So a lot of small cap plays. I don't want to be jumping around too much. CODX, we were talking about that not too long ago. Still hovering below VWAP. And then we have INW. So there's a lot in play. I wouldn't be surprised if this flat bottom breaks at some point here on INM, but I would probably have to order shorts for that name.
All right, Wes Westall asking what the deal is with Marvell. Very much bucking the trend today, almost up 5%. In fact, Marvell's up 8.25% since the bell rung. So obviously that means it was negative to start the pre-market, but what a recovery, and here's why. Amazon purchased 924,000 shares of Marvell in Q1, bringing its total stake to just south of 400,000 shares. You can do the math there. At a value of $39.26 million. The move comes as investors continue hunting for the next beneficiaries of the big tech's massive spending on custom silicon. Again, we're talking about custom ASICs, very much in play here for Amazon, whether you're looking at Trainium 1, 2, there are others as well as the networking and data center capacity. And Marvell has been very strong lately, more than the typical semiconductor supply story, obviously very much bucking the trend. I would say the stronger or the second strongest microchip / semiconductor name would be Micron, which also started the day very negative, up 3.25% on the back of that upgrade that we spoke about on the rundown this morning. In fact, Micron, not Marvell, Micron is up 5 4/5 since the bell rung there. So there's your information on that for those who are asking about why Marvell is up so big on the day. Continuing to watch here, GIPR, again, nothing for me to do. 45 buyer, right? That's great news. It didn't flush down. Problem is, we're south of 50. And even, quite frankly, if we do get above 50 by, a penny or two, I worry about the lower highs. We've been talking a lot about these setups and how they lure in the longs. You start thinking, all right, market's recovering. It's fantastic. Here we go again. Here comes the breakout. What ends up happening, I'm not saying that's going to happen this time, but something to be on the lookout for, is you end up getting a lower area high on this attempt. I'm talking about the right side of your chart. And then what you're really looking for after that to kind of confirm that this is going to be a lower high and that it's a bull trap is the subsequent candle. Number one, to be red, and number two, to breach whatever area high candle low. So what do I mean by that? This candle right here goes up to 51 and change, right? Let's just say the second candle was to open up. You're looking for the second candle after this 1225 candle to number one be red and to lose, in this specific case, the low of the candle, which 48.42. So I watch out for that. I want to see if that's going to happen or not. That's my observation right now on GIPR. CERS is getting a bit of a sell here into 87. I did take out, how much of the position did we take out? We're still holding a couple of outs here on CERS. I've taken out the majority of the position into that 85 penny high. Still went unprinted at 90, sadly, as well as 88s, because, well, the high of the day is 87. But here it comes in. This would be the first touch, quite frankly, and it is. Now this is touch, the 10 EMA. The 1225 bar on CERS is the actual first touch for the 10 exponential moving average since when? Since 10 a.m. You can see on all the pullbacks from 10 a.m. subsequent, we haven't touched the 10 EMA. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to put the odds on my side here, all right? The fact that we haven't breached a 10 EMA on the day, I'm going to continue to hold this trade. I'm in at 77. It loses 75. I lose 2 pennies. I've already made more than that, so we're going to let this one go. CERS, one to watch here, Joe.
All right, man, good look over there. Look at DRAM go. New high of the day and big time recovery, just holding this uptrend. I'm just watching NVDA break through those resistance zones that we were talking about not too long ago. And both the SPY and the NASDAQ are above the volume weighted average price with a full-blown recovery here on Intel. So, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's not doing that just yet. Is this going to be a laggard or is it just a weak underlying and when the market starts selling, you see it participating to the downside. So a little bit tougher of a session, and boring for me personally. $112 on NVDL was going to be my primary entry, $112.44 roughly, and then now off to the races it goes. So you have to pull the trigger on that. Otherwise, you're not going to participate on this move. At this pace, I wouldn't be surprised if NVDA puts in a new high of the day. I was going through some of the small cap names, but I'm like, you know what, let's just stick to our guns and see if we can find anything potentially here. But it's only a matter of time until you break that 109 marker. But I mean, like, look at this big time move here on Intel. Of course, you're going to fall down pretty drastic as the volume really upticks. The average true range within the underlying asset chart starts to expand. And then now you drop 23% from that peak to where we have this previous pivot low. It's a bit tougher of a look. Toast, I don't know why that's hitting scanner, but JD.com, let's see what we got going on over there. So there's some signs of strength. Now we just got to find a way to get involved. I don't want to be buying all the way into resistance zones because I feel one truth away or just one headline away where the market starts selling once again. Rivian Randy over here, to the downside of Rivian. Man, oh man, I don't even think that's all-time high, but I mean down 43% from that level. We can go to a weekly and see what we have going on. Yeah, so it's not even close, $27, 54%. Tougher space. That is for sure. How has Figma been performing here? Had a couple of strong days. That's the weekly. Let's head over to the daily. Circle was strong as well, too, after that earnings report, but it never really found any continuation after that massive gap up. Some strong days, and then you just give back the majority of it from $140 all the way down to $111. That's 20%, right? So that's quite a bit. BM&R, what are you sitting at 18? So bouncing off some of these support level lows, you'd want to find this bottom because it's not performing nearly as well as what Ethereum was earlier. And then sure enough, you did have a little bit of a recovery, but just right back giving the majority of that move in returns back to whoever's on the opposite side of things. XLE, Randy was like in the energy sector, pivot off of that March 20th level at 13%, and it looks like it wants to head towards this all-time high. At this pace, I believe it's going to. We'll take a look at some of the other names. XOM, how's that been performing? Breakout. Randy told me he's buying a little bit more, but a lengthy consolidation, and then look at the move you get after that. So CVX, we got Chevron over here. How's that been performing? Some strong sessions, about 4 or 5 days in a row to the top side in some green days. That's not too bad of a look. Trade Desk and ServiceNow, we'll pull that up. ServiceNow was strong yesterday. I don't believe we found Snow. We don't want Snowflake. We want Now. ServiceNow. So yeah, there's ServiceNow 3 days in a row. You gap up one more time up to $110, and then you come right back into 2176. Wow, there goes NVDA to the top side there, guys. Market breaking out, Intel new high of the day, and it's only a matter of time until we probably see it across the board. We'll look at one more before we send it back. AMD finding somewhat of a recovery here as well too, guys, so not too bad of a look.
All right, NXT is breaking out. I'm going to cover that in a minute, but what I really want to point out is what I was just pontificating about with this one. GIPR, this is exactly what I meant. When it breaks through the level, and sometimes it doesn't even give you such a clean rejection. Sometimes this candle here, that's a topping tail candle, will actually close green and lure you in even more. It didn't happen this time, but this is what I'm talking about. This is the lower high, followed by a candle that's now breaching prior bar low. This is bull trap 101. I've seen it so many times. It's such a repeatable pattern on small caps. I don't know if it happens on other ones, and I personally don't care. This one, it consistently happens with these small cap gappers. So watch out here. And an even big or an even worse eventuality is if you lose that 45 penny level where we already had about 20 minutes of support. And here it comes again. I hope nobody got lured into that. You're 51 in, now you're trading at 46, 5 pennies out of the money on a 40 penny name. You know what I mean, right? So keep your eye on this one. Now, that's the bad news in small cap gapper. Well, the good news is we've got another one moving here. NXT ripping up into 62 pennies. This one could be on the way to 2/3. We get into 2/3 at 66, 67. We're likely at least to see 3/4. Now, how are you going to get in? You can do a number of things. You can get in here, give it to current bar low. That's a bit of a risky trade, in my opinion. You can get in here and give it to 58 pennies. Or you can wait for retracement into 60 to 58, a bit of a 2 penny zone. Why do I say 58? What's my obsession with 58? Well, let's have a look. 1020 makes a day high. Yeah, breach is 58. Look at all the closing prints. Every single closing print until that 1225 candle rejected 58 pennies. That's not by accident. So here it is, just making another high, 62.15. NXT is on its horse. It looks like it's going to touch 2/3 of a dollar soon. Be very careful about how you get in. Make sure your trade is planned. If X happens, then I do Y, etc. So always if-then statements. Keeping a close eye on that. I'm also keeping a close eye here on CERS, as this is now, it's a 2-candle holdup at the 10 EMA on the 5. And quite frankly, it hasn't shown this kind of bearishness all day. You're getting a 3 red candle pullback, at least that's the way this current candle is. Got another 2 minutes to close. You didn't get at any point in the day on the 5-minute chart a 3-candle red pullback. So something to be on the lookout for here, especially for CERS, right? Such a slow mover. You know, who knows who was riding this one with the buy program, and that buy program gets shut off, people are taking profits. So keep that in mind. Continuing to watch NXT. Look at it rip up into 64, coming back down to earth now. Let's see if this one can hold up above 60 pennies. This is looking like the next one at the moment, Joey. NXT, very prolonged bull flag. Got to tell you, didn't really respect much in the way of VWAP here, so I don't want to base too much on the volume weighted average price, but that 52 to 51 penny area looked like it was a good area of technical support. Let's flip back quickly here. WNW, we were giving you this one. Here comes the breakout into 6.5. Well, yeah, you're like $1.30 or $1.20 now below that area high. So that's why I hate these ones with the big pre-market move, especially since there's so much, the high is substantially higher than where we are. Just to give you by way of example here, if we were to drag from the pre-market high into the current price action, we're down 56.5% off that high. So you can imagine, you know, what some of the bag holders are thinking in and around this level, Joey. So keeping an eye on those. Oh, I needed to mention, there's this one as well. SAGT. Feeling like flat top break. Very low on volume. I don't know what the spread is like. I haven't quite loaded it up on a trading screen. But what I do like about this one is the ascending wedge pattern. You're getting a lot of higher lows, and you've got that flat top that could be ready to break. Now, your guess is as good as mine. Is it 106, 107, 108? Is it that 111 area high? I'm just going to go 107, 106, 107. This breaks, especially if it gets above that implied balance high at 950 at 111, we're probably going to move at least into that 5:45 a.m. high, 1.25, 127. Let's see what we get here, Joey.
Absolutely. There goes the market. I mean, crazy. What an absolute recovery here on the day. And then you have this dustbin over here, Meta, putting in a new low of the day. So just going absolute opposite what the overall market is doing in some of these tech names. Man, oh man, what are we going to hit? We're going to stop the fail for the hesitation nation there on NVDA, but Intel back up to $110. We have IBIT now breaking the volume weighted average price. The Qs and the Spire in that neck of the woods. Get into a little bit more detail within the price action, and Meta is just a steady downtrend and a steady channel. So it might be a little bit tougher trying to catch this falling knife. As I was just scrolling through some of the bigger names, Tesla 397, nothing crazy going on over here, but that was a nice print heading right into V up. That's what we were looking for right here, right? You have this consolidation. Okay, additional liquidity grab. You climb a little bit higher. Nope, that's not the case. We'll sell off a little bit more, and then once that seller, that larger participants really start to take their foot off the gas, now you start to climb. So watch out, man, especially if you didn't break through VWAP and the market comes in a little bit here, you'll see some more sellers engaged on that specific name. DRAM back up to $50. Whew, some big time recoveries, guys. Some pretty good stuff, if you ask me. Where's AMD? I don't know, this thing always gets shuffled up. AMD, how you doing on today's session? Steady uptrend, recovering the majority of its losses from this morning, breaching the volume weighted average price and heading towards or north of the opening drive. And you can see this 5-minute candle high. So not too bad of a look there. Dare we short this move? Maybe. I'm thinking that we are pretty choppy here today, and if you have a session where you bounce around a little bit, maybe we'll get it in the opposite direction. So we could try a short on INTC, puts a little bit of risk on. Why not? Because we are at the highs, and if it breaches it, then by all means you just get out, right? So you have a really tight risk to reward ratio here on Intel. get out at the 50 cents that we have to give it. So we'll go small size on this bad boy just in case there's a hefty pullback coming in. Intel, let's go. INTC, we're engaged in this one. It's going to be our first, I believe, trade of the midday show as it sells off immediately, grabbing a couple pennies. But as soon as it breaks that high, we're out of dodge. The volume is supporting the move higher here too, guys. So keep that in mind just in case it does decide to rip. You just get at it. You get out of dodge. So what does he mean, tech meltdown? I mean, it was selling off. I don't think I said meltdown. If I did, hey, man. But yeah, there it goes. Instant 20 cents. It only gave us about 15 cents in the opposite direction, or in the direction that we're looking for, but now heading towards the high of the day. Might not be a short here. When you're going against these hefty trends, you have to be prepared to give it a couple attempts and then just abandon the thesis. If this doesn't work out, we have a 1 minute candle open up above this print, then we just get out of dodge and we throw that in the dustbin as well. So yeah, too bad of a really bad look here as we're starting to scream. And look at the volume really kick in on AMD as we climb higher. So some positive catalysts must be kicking in. Buy high, sell higher seems to be the narrative as this long on. Oh yeah, so there it goes. That didn't even work here for us. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and then if it doesn't want to break down, then we have to just get out of there. IBIT not too strong. We got to switch up some of these charts because I'm not liking anything. I'll be patient and wait till 2:30, and I believe I'll be able to find some opportunities there. Netflix at $89, going opposite the overall market right now. Same thing as Meta, SanDisk, and DRAM. Those things are strong. CRM, CrowdStrike. We went over those names. Are we back at the all-time high on CrowdStrike? Let's figure that out here. Coinbase was pretty strong actually today, and I don't know why Bitcoin's not as strong. 617, no. CrowdStrike really weak, I shouldn't say really weak, but coming off of that all-time high. CoreWeave, $98. Nothing crazy over there. Bloom Energy, $259. Doing Bloom Energy things. Monthly looking really strong. We can head over to the daily and see what we got going on. It did sell off of that 310 high, came down 22%, and then found its way and it bounced off of that bottom there. Nano Nuclear, Archer, and Joby. ASTS. Hey man, there might be a trade. We talk about trend breaks. Watch out for ASTS to sit on the backside here at $85.83. Maybe it'll start to recover a little bit. Now, as for one second there, Sharif, I want to take a look at TK Holdings. Yeah, it's not doing too much, and it's not liquid. Too bad this thing isn't more of a day trader, but you can see there's big-time liquidity issues on TKO.
All right, there's a big move up here on NXXT. We're in just south of 62. I know it says 62 on there, but I have better. I have 61 2/3. It just doesn't show it up on the board. Into 65, best profit taker there. Looking for 66. My current stop is below 60. That's not going to be the case anymore. There's a lot of resistance at 62 initially. So if there was a lot of resistance, and I want to say from around 12:28 to when we broke out, 10 minutes worth of resistance at 62, I want 62 to hold up. So my stop moves up. Here comes 64, as I mentioned, 65 penny high a day, looking for 66. And then if we get above that, then my bias is going to be $0.75 NXXT, I don't want to say it was a clean hold of VWAP. That's inaccurate. It did breach VWAP, but on a very, very temporary basis, and was able to reclaim it above again. In fact, most of the day was spent above the volume weighted average price saving, except for I think a 10-minute period where it traded below, north of 50 pennies though. Here comes 65 again, 64 4/5, looking for the move above 65 and a breach of the high of the day. We're at 65 right now, but expect selling. You sold off at 65 before, you know there's a seller there. Just need more buyers, obviously, right? So do expect that until it does get taken out, and then you can start looking at 66 and start looking at 67. But currently, right now, we're dealing with a 65 seller. Continuing to watch here as we work our way up, but there is more selling than buying at these levels. That's fine. We'll see if we can get up into that 69 penny area. I'm happy with the hold here on CERS for the moment. Underline that, for the moment. It is still holding up above the 10 EMA on the 5. Quite frankly, this is the longest it's spent at the 10 EMA on the day. This is about 20 minutes now of holding that said 10 EMA level. So we'll see what we get with that. Perhaps it's good, perhaps it's not. Now, GIPR, we're trading at 45. It's an unabated to the VWAP, essentially. There has been no bid here on GIPR. I'm still waiting for the volume weighted average price. Sit 42, it's now showing me 42.5 pennies. That's where VWAP is. Again, recall my bias was a 42 penny area resistance, just given what it did on the one earlier on. If it comes into that level, doesn't hold up, I'm out. Really that simple. Continuing to watch here, NXXT, you're getting triple topping tail candles. This doesn't look good. It looks like that 65 seller, they're winning out for the moment. Look at all these topping tail candles. That means there's aggressive selling in and around this level. Now that's the bad news. What's the good news? The good news is you're still putting in higher lows, I should say. In fact, you have been since 1220. It's 1243. So you got basically that 1220 candle, higher low on 25, higher low on 30, higher low on 35. And here we are again now, coming back in, looking to breach possibly prior bar low at 60.50. I'll stop out before that. As I mentioned, I see buyers at 62. Doesn't want to hold up at 62. I'm not in. Wants to come back into 60, hold up there, fine. Then I'll have gotten the read on this one wrong, which I'm fine with. So I'm looking for that 66 move on NXXT. We'll see what we get on this one. I also want to mention that CBRG. This is almost like the one that got away. Such a clean hold off the volume weighted average price on CBRG right at quarter afternoon into 15.17, ripping up now into 16 and a third with a 16.56 high a day. But I do want to stress that this $0.50 between the third to half has been a critical area of resistance on CBRG. So if you're in this, look to take profits in and around this level. Of course, always save a piece for that dream should this one continue to run up. So that's what I'm watching right now. We're on the verge of getting stopped out here below 62 on NXXT. Thanks to the topping tail candles, they lose that level. They lose me as a trader, Joey.
All right, man. Let's see what this guy's got going on. Oh, he's got his turtle up there. All right, man. Disrespectful. Yeah, we just get out of Intel, right? Like, we're not going to go against this. We took our little bit of attempt. You take a paper cut on that one. It didn't want to sell off. I mean, I was looking at the tape, and every time you push down a little bit, you have higher sellers engaging. So we'll just avoid that. We'll kick that thesis to the curb as NVDA on that multiple volume weighted average price holds up to a T at that 220 level, and then now just continuing to grind. We're not going to try to stand in front of that freight train. You try one attempt just because you see some topping tail signals and maybe you get a little bit move into that next support level that was acting as prior resistance. Not necessarily the case. So AC Slater to Intel and company, this chip name, like, I'm not going to buy it all the way up here. Your risk to reward is just too much, and I was risking the high of the day. So if I go long, where am I technically wrong? I guess this support level, the volume weighted average price, it's just a little bit too much for me. So yeah, Intel, man, I would love to, I actually go back and look at my all-time accuracy on this piece of work. Yeah, what do I got going on, man? It's quiet. Robinhood down to $74. That's not too good. Palantir, $134. That's not looking great. We're just talking about the chip trade. Once again, AMD out. We could trade this vehicle as it's continuing to climb. The breakup VWAP was the ideal thing. What's up, Stevenson? Hope everything's going good on your end. 20% trading behind. Nice work, man. That's what you want to get for. That's what you want, and congratulations to you. Joseph, TSLL long here. I don't know, man. I think I'm the wrong person to ask that here today. Hasn't been the best session. Regardless, you got to make your own decisions on what you're going to trade, because the ones that I have on TSLL didn't work out how I wanted to. And we were a little bit earlier on this gun, but it's just a name that wasn't participating in any form of recovery here today. Now you have Intel starting to come back in, and we'll let it form a base. Do we take one more attempt on it? Maybe, as the selling slowly is starting to step in here. You see a little bit of an engulfing candle, but keep an eye on the tape, right, with Intel. If every time it sells off a little bit and you see at the ask and above the ask start to kick in once again, it's just strong, and you don't want to fight. I don't have that time to just continuously pray and just throw up these wishful trades in order for it to potentially break down. I would rather go with the flow, and I understand that it's up, but where do we get involved? We had a couple of trend line breaks to the downside downside, and then after that, it's just been off to the races. So if I have to sit on my hands until 230, then so be it. When the overall market, if and when it wants to turn around, then we'll be prepared to take advantage of it. Other than that, it's going to be a quiet one and definitely a horrible start, but I'm glad that we're not down. Half shut down right now, considering what we've had over the past couple of days. I'm not going to complain whatsoever, so we're still in a position to succeed. It just might take a little bit more time than what we're expecting.
All right, Joe. All right. Just throwing in a stop here.
I'm going to keep going here.
No, that's cool. That's cool. All right. So I made a mistake. NXXT, I moved up my stop. It lost prior bar low. What was it supposed to do? It broke trend. It was preceded by a ton of topping tail candles. So I had to respect the technicals. But here it is again, turning into a hammer candle, ramping up into 64. Watch out for this one. Here comes 64 again. The tape is moving crazy. That typically means that there's a lot of buying and selling, of course, at one level, and especially when you don't get price action movement there. So let's see what NXXT does. If it loses this area low, I'm out. 61 1/3, essentially. CRS holding up well, but I am now done my trade on GIPR, as this one did lose 42. Recall, we were in at 41. Now it's at VWAP, 42.70. This is the critical level. I'm not going to pick it up off here because that'd be like picking up a falling knife. Let's watch, though. Are the buyers going to step in at around 42? That's been my bias the entire time. Could be wrong. Now, so what's the plan? Let it bounce off 42. You have a 58.82 high. If your bias is we test those area highs, perhaps even more, then you've got a lot of room from wherever you get in off that 42, you get in 44, 45, whatever the technicals are saying, and it rips up, but there goes NXXT into the high again, into 66 pennies. This one's on the move. Now we're looking for 3/4. So very, very strong. Happy that I had the compunction to get back into this one, especially since I made a boneheaded mistake stopping out. Huge seller at 65.59. Can't shake that seller. Look for the move now above that critical 66 penny level. We've rejected there multiple times. We get into that, then you start thinking, yeah, we're headed into 75. We're headed into 74. Use technicals, though, guys. I'm going to stop out if it loses area low. That's about 61 1/3. Ride the trend. You have prior bar low as well, off which you can base a trade. That's 61.51. But here comes 66 again. We're about to breach area high. So I'm going to go ahead and put an order out for 69. We'll see what we get in and around that level. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. CRS bouncing again off that 10 EMA on the 5. I haven't went the beak here in a minute, so we're going to wet it there and see what we get, Joe. 64 now showing up here on NXXT. This could be a fill at 64. I'm going to hold. I made a mistake last time. I've taken it out. I'm going to hold to an area low. If that means it goes against me a few pennies, that's fine. We already made some profits on this one. You got to risk some to make some. 61 1/3, I'm out. I also want to mention here, for those who are interested, CMBT. Putting in a really good bull flag. I mean, the fact that this is holding up just south of 17, I don't know. I think this is quite bullish. In fact, you've got a bit of an established range, about 16 4/5 to the south side, to the high side, obviously it's 17. You build your position in and around 16 4/5. Why? So that you could wet the beak in and around 17, then hold for the breakout should it happen, right? So you make money on the range and then you save a piece for what could be a breakout trade. CMBT, the ticker I'm talking about, it's up a very respectable on the day. 12.25%, not a rocket ship, but one to keep your eye on. There goes again. NXXT into another high of day, 67 75. Here comes 68. We're waiting at 69. There's 69 into the high on NXXT. Now up 70%. This one is ripping, guys. Watch out now for resistance in and around 70. It clears 70. You're looking for 75. It really is that simple. So we're going to keep an eye out on this one, and I want to be able to get more in, Joey. If it does come back into that 62 to 64, let's see if it found support there.
All right, my guy. Nice look. At least you're catching some of the momentum to the top side here. Man, oh man,
Who's this idiot?
Frustrating, man. When I have these starts, it's just like, man, Tesla minus that one. Ooh, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's woosaw, man. Sit under a tree type stuff. But all right, we're just gonna keep our composure and look for a next opportunity. I mean, it's comical at the end of the day, so we're not gonna get too frustrated. Spy on buy program. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it is completely. It's on a buy program. So what do we do with, like, what if I decide to punch long here on Intel? It's probably gonna sell off. So yeah, I have to be patient and wait for some opportunities. It's a setup that I like, so don't need the tree just. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm only playing around. Let's send things off to Adele.
Just want to let you guys know here, NMG is pushing higher. Volume on this a little bit light. I just checked, around 800,000 shares traded on the day, but it looks like they just broke ground on their graphite Matawine mine in Quebec. So again, this is a company called Nouveau Monde Graphite. Their new Matawine mine having ground broken on it in Quebec. Prime Minister Carney saying of the mine that it will become the largest graphite mine in the G7. So new graphite mine here just had ground broken. I also have to do some housekeeping while I have you guys here. Like I said before, there are way too many events happening right now at 1 p.m. One of them is the Google I/O keynote, which technically kicked off half an hour ago with gamers playing games, but we're actually going to get the keynote starting in about 7 minutes with, I'm assuming, CEO Sundar Pichai. Another Google executive, though, performing or presenting at the second event occurring at 1 p.m. That is the Dell Technologies World Day 2 keynote featuring Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian. Now, the third event is not related to Google or Dell. Third event is Vice President J.D. Vance hosting a White House press briefing at 1. So again, you've got Google I/O, Dell Technologies World, and this Vice President Vance press briefing, all that happening at 1. I'm going to cover all of these events simultaneously to the best of my ability, so please stick with us over here at Trader TV Live.
All right, good stuff, man. Just talking in one of my group chats, my one boy I was in Chicago with last year in August. This guy, wow, this guy's up. He's up like $500,000 or something on this specific stock, and we're trying to convince him to sell some. But if it looks like this, I don't know if there's any need to. I thought it would have broke down significantly earlier, but yeah, we're just like, hey man, you got to sell a little bit and maybe buy a house or something. But he's like, no, he's holding that until he hits $1 million. So congratulations to him. I think it's only a matter of time, up 100K on the day, which is crazy. Yeah. Some big time stuff, Katina, man, no joke on that one, man. Congratulations to him. I'm not going to name drop or anything. I want to be, yeah, so do I believe a lot of us would want to. And he's like, no, we're like, yeah, you got to move to Asia or something with that money. But as soon as he realizes it, I wonder how much tax he's going to have to pay on it, which is kind of garbage, right? I wonder if you realize it in a different country if you have to pay taxes. I think that's a good question to be had, but maybe it's just reflective of your broker. CrowdStrike, we went over all of these same names, guys. I'm just rambling on. I have nothing, nor am I looking to put on any trade at the moment. As you can see, we climb up into $110 on Intel. That thing's still screaming. You're up now 2.4%. Buy program is right, Stevenson, within the SPY and the NASDAQ. Now Tesla's starting to participate on the break of the volume-weighted average price. IBIT up to 43.52. You're hovering right now at 223 on NVDA. Now you're only $15 off of that previous all-time high. Positive signs leading into the earnings report and a big-time recovery. Oh, this is ASTS buy program, 5-minute time frame on Intel. Yeah, strong stuff, guys, strong stuff. So maybe we look for any form of a pullback, and then we look to engage to the long side. Other than that, I have absolutely nothing. Tesla was a slow start, and now it's starting to climb. It's still down 2.3% on the day when the rest of the market is turning green.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing. I want to mention that NXXT, 66 to 64 possible support. You get that 70, 80 level, right? So you get into that 10 penny level, you start thinking resistance. Even though I'm thinking $0.75, you always have to put some respect on the 10 penny levels named in the world of, sub $1 stocks, because there just always seems to be resistance in and around those levels. So let's watch here. I'm looking for a 66 hold. At worst, I'm looking for 64, just given what this one did with 64 earlier on. There was also some resistance at 66. You can see where the profit takers I was taking, but it looks like there's a double bottom here, at least on the 1 minute chart. At 66. Now, you get a very bullish setup if you have that double bottom off 66 and a breach and a closing breach, I should say, of 70 pennies. So NXXT, I mean, it's still in my purview here, up 65%. It looks to be the best in the business at the moment in terms of small cap gappers. I don't see any that are better or that are running as aggressively, that are doing 114 million shares on the day. So ample liquidity, obviously much tighter of a spread than a penny as we are trading south of $1 here. I'm still holding my position on CERS, having taken the best print out there at 87. That is the high of the day. Now we're showing 85s, and I'm waiting for higher. So let's see if we can get, I have a bias, we get into 3. My only, I don't want to say complaint, but my only mistake here was essentially waiting 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. 20 minutes this one held up at the 10 EMA and I didn't add. And I kept making the point that this had not done it on the day, that this was the longest area of consolidation or the longest area hold at the 10 EMA, because basically it hadn't even touched the 10 moving average since 10 a.m. So I made a mistake there. I should have been a lot more alive to that fact, especially given how many shares I have left. If I had just put it a penny or 2 below the 10 EMA on the 5, I would have been printing up again into the high side. So a mistake by me not to add on CERS. We'll look to do better next time. I don't think we're going to make that mistake on NXXT because I'm very, very much attuned to the support level, which I keep earmarking here as 66 to 64. It looks like we're going to lose 66 at least for the moment. If we lose prior bar on NXXT, which is currently prior bar low, 63.87, I don't think that's the end all and be all. And the reason I say that is we did that multiple times on our way up. Case in point, the 1240 candle relative to the 1245 candle. We lost the area low of the 1240 candle and the 1245 candle. So be on the lookout for a hold up on this one. It can be a little bit bamboozling. And here it is again, trying to get up and stay above 66 into 67. I don't do anything until I find out exactly how this one is looking in terms of buyers, where the buyers are stepping in, and how much money they have. Because that's what it's going to come down to here for us to hold up above these technical levels. So keeping an eye on that. I think another couple of minutes, Joey. I think we should probably start the news. We didn't do it yesterday. I think there's a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, we can start it at any time, man. Get me off of these keys as I go short Intel one more time instantly. Awful, man, yeah. Oh, yeah, there it goes, $10. Let's go, man. Let's see if we can break through this support level, but it seems like they just want to buy right back in. We did look like we were going to form somewhat of a little bit of a top, guys, and then we want to play that 110 break, 109.86, but now it just, boom, it just starts to climb once again, so that's not too much fun. So I'll be patient. It's best that I just take my hands off the keys and find something else to potentially trade here. Now, all right, there we go. Come on, break down, baby, break down. You can do it. You can sell a little bit, head towards 108 at least. There it goes, a little bit of a flush to the downside. Some strong, I mean, there was a really nice buy program up there, and I think it's going to be tough in order for us to get that move. But as soon as it cracks this resistance zone right there at 110.71, then we just get out of the trade once again and then sit on our hands. You can distribute. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. If only I could have one of those, that'd be pretty cool. But Tesla, a nice recovery, and then you have also IBIT north of VWAP. So you can see the strength step in across the board here in the overall market, and that's a positive sign. And we've seen that for a couple of weeks, right? It's like every dip that just ended up getting bought back up, you can see the volume weighted average price was hovering around both the SPY and the Qs relatively tight, and then it decides to break. So yeah, come on, man, break down. It may take some time, or this could be a consolidation before it wants to put in an additional leg higher. So 110.08, 110.11s, and then you can see Tesla starting to climb. We'll head over to that 5-minute time frame, 402. Yeah, nice base off of this one, liquidity grab. That's all this is right here, and then boom, off to the races it goes. So let's see if we can get that breakdown here in Intel. If you want to start the news, let's rock and roll.
Let's do it. All right, let's talk a little Google here. I mean, Google was by far the strongest Mag 7 name to start the morning. That is not the case anymore, down 1 2/3. NVIDIA, the strongest Mag 7 name, up almost 0.5%. Apple, up 1/5. Let's talk about Google. I like this headline. I like it a lot in terms of, you know, what we've been talking about for a long time, which is the custom ASICs play, right? Application-specific integrated circuits and how that's factoring in to the hyperscaler build-out for their AI infrastructure, as well as possibly hurting NVIDIA's bottom line when it comes to GPUs. We're going to pause for a second. We got to go to Adara with news.
Speaking of Google, Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, just took the stage at their Google I/O 2026 keynote. If there's anything of note to come from this, I'll let you know. I was reading about this ahead of time. Looks like they could be previewing some smart glasses at this event. Again, if we do get anything of note here, I will keep you posted. But GeoOGL on watch as the I/O 2026 keynote begins.
I want to tell you, because Marvell's up, I don't know if you saw it today, almost 6%. All right. Continuing to watch, let's talk about Google. So as I was mentioning earlier, another TPU deal. It's not with a hyperscaler, it's with Blackstone. Kind of surprising there, private equity. What are you talking about? Well, just look at the video there by Bloomberg on Jane Street and what they're doing with their data center build-out. Gives you an idea what these financial companies are doing with these GPUs. And in this case, going to be custom ASICs. It's not just the hyperscalers that are throwing their hat into the custom ASIC GPU ring. It is very much now the financial names, Blackstone among them. They're launching a new US-based AI infrastructure venture with Blackstone, committing $5 billion in equity, but we're going to see that could actually move up to a lot higher to build a large-scale compute capacity. Google is going to supply Blackstone with the TPU chips, a tensor processing unit that is Google's internally designed custom ASICs chip, which until I think a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they had only been using internally. Now, all of a sudden, they're realizing revenue, and they expect the first 500 megawatts of this Blackstone facility to be online by 2027, another step in turning internal AI infrastructure into an external monetization engine. That's what I was talking about there with respect to selling them outside Google. The real market takeaway, though, is Google keeps moving further up in the AI value chain, not just models, not just cloud with Google Cloud, but now direct infrastructure and compute economics. You've got to love that. We always joke around, Joey and I, calling Google essentially the Mag 7 ETF. They have their hands in so many freaking cookie jars. It's crazy. And it also reinforces the narrative that the hyperscaler trend of reducing dependence on NVIDIA by controlling more of their own hardware stack internally. We've been seeing a lot of that. And why do they do that? Because they save money, quite frankly. And these custom ASICs, they're not a Swiss Army knife. They're pretty much designed for one specific task, but if you limit them to that specific task, they perform better, if you believe the reports, than NVIDIA's GPUs. Blackstone's involvement adds credibility here. This is an infrastructure scale deployment, not a speculative AI announcements. And investors have to view Alphabet as an integrated AI infrastructure platform name, not just simply search and ad business. A trading implication here for Google is that it's a mildly competitive headline pressure for NVIDIA, not immediately thesis breaking though. So something to take into consideration there. And I also want to mention a couple of points here that I made in the morning. A lot of underreported things when it comes to some of these. And the one that I want to mention is that $5 billion headline is a bit misleading because it's going to be layered. And if all the layers to the order by Blackstone from Google for the TPUs comes to fruition, the deal is expected to be worth $25 billion, not $5 billion. So that $5 billion, that's a headline number. Could be a lot bigger than that. Also, it's designed as a directed, okay, so the point that I was gonna make there was basically it's disruptive to NVIDIA. But let's be honest about it. We've been talking about custom ASICs disrupting NVIDIA, I think, for going on 6 months now. At least I've been talking about that. And it hasn't even come close. NVIDIA just keeps making all-time highs. The reason is because not everybody can design their own custom ASICs, nor do they want to. And what Joey and I were talking about, I think a few weeks ago, was the sort of the benefits versus the benefits of one type of chip, ASICs in one, and GPU on the other, and why one company could order GPUs and the other ASICs. Is because if you're looking to scale and you're looking to change the software or the application that the chip is running on, you need a GPU, right? Because you can't have a custom ASICs that operates on a different platform. It is specific to one type of application. That's why they call it application specific. So I kind of want to make that point. Anything you want to add about Google and their deal with Blackstone for these TPUs, which Google is now selling outside?
I think that's a big move for Google. We'll send it off to Adara. We'll touch a little bit more on this here.
As GOGL continuing to push higher as CEO Sundar Pichai continues this keynote at Google I/O 2026. We're about 5 minutes in. He just showed a graph which shows that apparently more than 3 quadrillion tokens are processed across the Google ecosystem every single month. Now, this time last year, that was roughly 480 trillion tokens. That's up 7%, up 7 times year over year. So massive year over year growth here for token usage across the Google ecosystem, according to CEO Sundar Pichai at Google I/O 2026. Back to you.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to your point there, man, not everybody can afford the custom ASICs. We know it's the larger participants, but the fact that Google's starting to sell some of these is just another revenue stream for this company that we've seen going absolutely parabolic as of late. The CEO stating, hey, if we had more compute, we could have generated more revenue. So hopefully this allows them to become more efficient. And I think just the fact that they're generating and they're creating this additional revenue stream. Is it going to be a direct competitor? Who knows? Time will tell. If this stuff really works out for some of the buyers of the TPU, then sure enough, watch out. Not only is Google going to be a competitor in the cloud space with Azure and Amazon Web Service, it can compete directly against NVDA, which can be extremely dangerous.
And when you were gone, I was saying that you and I always say, or we used to say that they're like the Mag 7 ETF.
Yeah, they
hand
are.
in this cookie jar, hand in that
Everything.
cookie jar. You've got a lot of cookie jars on your desk, Joey. Look, what's his name? Miami Dragon 38. Yes, 100% of Google's tensor processing unit is manufactured by Taiwan Semiconductor. All of them. At least for now. Underline that for now. Now, whether they diversify, a little pressure comes on Google vis-a-vis your friend President Trump, forcing them maybe to manufacture some with Intel. Should Intel get their ducks in a row when it comes to GPUs and custom ASICs? We'll see. But right now, 100% of Google's TPUs manufactured by
Do you think it makes
Taiwan
a difference if they're starting to be fabricated in the Arizona plant, the TSM Arizona plant?
100%. Think about the administration pounding the desk. Build internally, build internally. We need to reshore the chip supply chain. We can't have our most advanced chips 90 miles off the coast of China. It's just too much of a geopolitical risk. So I think, the second that Intel gets their ducks in a row with respect to that, you're definitely gonna see. Anything you want to mention to the chat? Because it looks like you're printing over there. The Katina Man's long Google, by the way. Oh, what did I miss? Did you hear the new album, Katina Man? I'm halfway through it. Yeah, it was okay. I mean, what? Iceman. He has got 3. Yeah, I know. I'm halfway through the first one. It's okay. Let's talk about NVIDIA and their Vera Rubin, excuse me, the Rubin is the GPU, the Vera CPU shipment. So NVIDIA has begun shipping its new Vera CPU systems, and that's moving into the next generation of agentic AI infrastructure architecture into honestly real-world deployment, man. Early customers include some big names, Anthropic, OpenAI, Oracle, SpaceX, more on that in a second. It gives the rollout immediate credibility with major names. Oracle also plans, more on Oracle in a second here, especially OCI. They plan to deploy hundreds of thousands of these Vera CPUs beginning this year. It's more than a symbolic launch. They're basically relying on it. The bigger story, though, Joey, is NVIDIA's expanding from GPU dominance into the broader, full AI stack for the AI infrastructure, spanning CPUs, networking, DPUs. Have you even heard of DPUs?
No, man.
Racks. You heard of racks, though. Accelerators. It strengthens, of course, NVIDIA's competitive moat by increasing the wallet share per hyperscale customer. The market implication, Joey, NVIDIA's bull thesis increasingly depends on the total AI ecosystem control, not just the standalone GPUs like Blackwell and Hopper and the names that we know a lot about.
Good stuff. I'm going to go a little bit off track here, but we're going to talk about NVDA because I found this extremely interesting, and I've been saying this leading up into the report. So what we're seeing here is that typically we see a move around 8% or so, the average being around 6.5%. But what we're looking at is exactly what I was preaching not too long ago over the past couple of days and last week as well too. So we're looking around a 7.4 to 1 payout and a move to $260 or higher, and I was talking about the open interest at 200 during the previous reports, but now I was pointing out a specific level and a strike price at 270. Now, if renewed interest really steps into this name and we have a crazy forecast within a guidance in NVDA, I think that we can continue to climb because even though it's selling off here today, there's something very interesting in which I found on the options chain. It can happen or it won't. Here's the actual chart itself. That'd be a big time move from where we're currently trading at. If we do go up into 261, that'd be a 20%, but I wouldn't be surprised because there isn't very much downward pressure in what I'm seeing in this name right now.
How much are we off the lows there? That
off this pivot low here?
That's the one right there. Just go to the
36.
top. Go to the top.
So it was like 40%.
40%.
44.
That's like in a few weeks.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, from March all the way up there, 44%. I just wanted to point that out because as I was looking through some of the news here on this name, that one obviously stood out to me, and I'm glad that we had some backing towards the thesis, but anything can happen.
All right, so as I mentioned, Oracle featuring big in this story when it comes to the Vera CPU. But I really want to stress that the CPUs, it was kind of like almost out of fashion, right? CPUs, who uses CPUs? All of a sudden, it's like it's so cyclical, right? You don't need CPUs or as many of them anyway in the rack for training, but it looks as if you need a ton of them for inference, and that's where everything is moving. It's kind of moving away from that responsive LLM, giving you kind of that answer into the agentic AI multi-agent as well as setups that are doing things based on inference. So it's funny how that kind of works. CPUs back in fashion here, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI for short. They're going to deploy, as I mentioned, hundreds of thousands of these. They're going to be basically the dedicated hyperscale agent factory. That's how it's being described by Oracle themselves. So let's see if Oracle gets it right. And perhaps if they do, maybe we have orders from some other customers. I'm sure we will anyway. Let's move on to AMD. AMD having a decent day. It was red. Now it's up 1/3%, still trailing behind, of course, NVIDIA. Evercore today with a positive note on AMD, reiterating the rating they already had on there, which is outperformed, but they did lift up the price target quite markedly here from what was it? $358 to $579. So over a $200 bump there. And the argument is that the accelerating AI demand and an even stronger CPU momentum that we just finished talking about is going to materially expand AMD's long-term upside. So they now see server CPU TAM, total addressable market, to exceed $120 billion by the end of the decade, 2030, with AI infrastructure deployments shifting, again, more towards CPU-heavy architectures versus the historical GPU-dominant builds that NVIDIA really thrived on. That matters because AMD's EPYC server CPUs have become a big beneficiary of that, especially if agentic AI and the reinforcement learning workloads require a more balanced GPU-CPU ratios. Evercore also highlighted AMD's next-gen Helios platform as a key catalyst to their upgrade, or the price target increase, I should say. Sampling is already underway for Helios, and the production ramp-up expected to begin later this year. The broader implication, though, Joey, this is yet another institutional vote that AMD is not just an NVIDIA sympathy trade, it is increasingly becoming modeled as a structural AI infrastructure winner in its own right. Again, CPUs here have always been AMD's moat. Now, to be fair, they used to suck, and anybody who would buy a laptop that had an AMD CPU, you're looking at me, Randy, they would suck bad. I was always looking for Intel inside. Is that the case anymore, though? He's going like this. Thoughts, Joey?
No, I agree with you on that one because we've seen where AMD really started to dominate was within the gaming PCs, right? Like you've seen those chips, the graphics cards really start to step in, and sure enough, Yeah, exactly.
How come
So
I can't hear him?
I don't know. He might not be talking to you. That's why. He was just saying they run really hot. Oh, okay. So everyone can hear him on that one. But I remember you really started to see that the AMD chip step in during COVID. Now, we were expecting a neck-and-neck race or something relatively close earlier in the days when we first seen this AI boom start out. It was NVIDIA and AMD that we were supposed to be the runners-up and, I mean, classified as the winner. I don't think there's going to be one specific winner in this industrial boom. But AMD with the MI455, it started with the 350, started to gain a lot of ground. But I mean, if we're going to talk about AMD or NVDA starting to lose a little bit of share to the TPUs, the training processing units from Amazon, then we have to look at AMD as well. But AMD involved with Stargate, I like that a lot. There's a lot of things under AMD's belt and tailwinds that can drive this name significantly higher. I don't believe we've seen a split. And if we want to talk about market cap, where's there room to grow? And I think it's within AMD as it really, really started to gain some ground in this race between it and NVIDIA.
Fabian, I hear that. I saw that you were trying to talk to me there. It went blue, but I still couldn't hear you in my ear, brother. Thank you for looking into that. All right, let's talk.
We didn't even see that.
Randy.
Sorry, brother.
Just one thing. AMD, most of our back end now runs on AMD processors.
Really?
There you go,
So
man.
our server room there.
Our data centers.
Our data center, yeah.
The platforms you trade on. Why? More efficiency per core, less watts per core.
So more energy efficient as well.
More energy efficient. What are data centers' biggest problems
Absolutely.
right now?
Of course.
So if you can squeeze more cores, more clock out of less watts, it's a big, big win. Overall price point.
And they're a pretty good price. I'm assuming it's not that bad, right?
It's way, way competitive.
Let me ask you something though.
It's giving
How's the
Intel
tech
a run for their
support?
money.
Like you have, it's good?
All the big vendors are out there supporting both brands of processors. Tech support's A1.
Good,
So you've got to factor in the efficiency that they've put into their EPYC line over Intel. Yes, the more cores, less watts. It all adds up. It really does. When you pay out the nose for power in data centers,
Oh, for sure.
ooh, it's expensive.
Sure, it's ridiculous. It's the
at the
biggest bottleneck right now.
Right. At the end of the day, if you can save dollars and get more performance out of less power, like it's
a right trade-off. It's the right trade-off. Good to know. That's interesting. I like that fact that we have practical application for that in this look. All right, guys, I'm just going to look quickly here at NFLX for NIVAP. Look, it doesn't look great. It's not bad. What I do like about this, look at that clean hold at 60. And 60 it was an obvious area high at 1020. Watch out for 65 resistance. I think if it clears 65 decisively, then you might have another attempt here at 70, 80. The reason I say 65, look at all the topping tail candles that rejected 65. Now, mind you, you've got higher lows to support, but you never really know what's waiting for you at the other end of that 65 trade. Be careful. Look for a decisive move above it. We can get into 75. NFLX has good volume on the day. We got to pause for a second. We got to go to Adara.
Adobe here. As we continue to get this I/O keynote from Google, Google announcing their Gemini Omni model, which is for video generation and editing, obviously puts them a little bit into competition with ADBE. So Adobe, again, continuing to make new lows of days as Google announces a competing product, as that's also AI focused. We know what happens when we get announcements about ChatGPT and Anthropic products competing with Adobe. Once again here now, Google competing with ADBE's video generation. GOOGL here, just to show you guys how this one looks as well. Continuing to push higher as, again, they announce this Gemini Omni launch, and several other announcements have been made here throughout this I/O event. I mentioned most of them earlier. Back to you.
Joe?
What's that? Oh, Adobe? Yeah, it's disastrous, man.
Tiffany, can we show this? This is the weekly, made all-time highs. Okay, so let's not crap on this too much. It made all-time highs when Papa used the word transitory, and then we know what happened since that time. So since that time, we are down 62.5%, and we've lost technical levels, Katina, man, because there was definitely some support there at 275. That's come and gone. I mean, you never really want to crap on a company, but wow. I mean, Yeah, it is.
Why? If it's trash, if there's too much disruptive service stepping in, then why not, man?
Well, I don't think it's trash. I think it's a good product. But like you said, they're being disrupted by a better product.
Right.
All right, let's talk about, did you have a comment about AMD?
Yeah, we talked
About that. Let's move on. Let's talk about Seagate, STX. Where are they at? So STX is flat. It's down 0.33%. STX is a big company now, guys. $165 billion market cap. I wouldn't have pegged it. Sold off pretty aggressively, but they're off the lows. 695 low. Now it's with a high of 745, trading at 738. Management signaled it cannot rapidly add production capacity fast enough to fully capture the burgeoning AI-driven demand. The CEO, Dave Mosley, said building new factories or materially expanding the ones that already exist would take way too long and could slow the technology advancement, which makes the market kind of interpret that comment as a growth bottleneck, not a problem you want to have. Management emphasized visibility does remain strong, so demand's through the roof. We know that. Customers effectively reserving capacity 4 to 5 quarters ahead of time. That's how long down the line they're trying to lock in these LTAs, long-term agreements, but admitted demand is running well above that forecast window. So he's saying in reality, the demand is actually above that, but the companies are committing 4 to 5 quarters ahead of time. The bigger issue is investor concern that memory/storage suppliers may be supply constrained, just as AI spending does accelerate. So even though the demand's there, can't make the product. That's a concern. Sympathy selling peers. Micron was selling off. That's obviously not the case now. Western Digital, SanDisk, all were basically negative to start the morning there. Broader sector read-through, as I mentioned, though, the semis were very decidedly green since the bell, and we made the point that the change since open was green on almost all of them. In fact, now there's only 2 that are not. CDNS, we don't even know that, and APLD. Those are the only 2 semi names that are red after the bell. Marvell is up 10 2/3 since the bell rang. 10 2/3. So keep your eye out on that. Having a great day, up 7 1/4 at the moment. The market implication, this is the kind of the classic great demand, constrained execution setup. This is a problem. Bullish long-term narrative, ugly short-term sentiment. Thoughts?
No, I like that you brought up the bottleneck point, because I think it's really important to note is that there's so much demand, and as Sharif mentioned, they're literally going a year plus out, a year and a half or so, trying to reserve their spot in line. But you don't want to fulfill all of those obligations too quick. Why? Because what happens when you have all of this demand and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have the data center build out, we have the AI build out, there's memory constraints, and then sure enough, you've met it all and you're stuck with all this infrastructure, but no one necessarily needs it. So I like this bottleneck aspect. Why? Because it can prolong the cool down, and that's what I'm looking for. Seagate, not necessarily a name that we talk about quite often, but right along SanDisk and Micron, been performing outstanding, like 110% off of those same levels that we are looking at on Micron and SanDisk. So yeah, I like the bottleneck. Why? Because it prolongs the demand, meeting the demand. The build out takes a little bit longer, and I think that's really important because you don't want to meet it too quick, as I stated before, and the next thing you know, no one wants it anymore, right? And Sharif mentioned this multiple times before. Insane amounts of demand, and then you have this glut of inventory, and no one wants the product. So you don't want to fall into that realm too quick. And so I'm going to stand with what I just said before: is just allow it to go for as long as it possibly can, and bottleneck as much of this demand as you possibly can.
Yeah, and that's and when they are able to meet supply, just think of the rocket ship that will ensue subsequent.
Same thing like what Sundar said. He's like, man, our revenue would be substantially like 20-30% higher if we had enough compute power.
Yeah, hey, that's always a bit of a bottleneck there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about. Micron, up 6% on the day and 8.5% since that bell rang. Citi today with a positive comment on Micron, boosting the price target pretty high here. 425 was where it was. Now they're saying price target of $840. They maintain the same buy rating, and they're basing it on aggressive DRAM pricing. and the upcycle thesis that they basically had for this entire time. They expect Micron to raise DRAM prices by about 40% in the current quarter, following Samsung's report that they were increasing it 100% in the first quarter for, I think, first fiscal quarter for Samsung. So you're getting Samsung raising it, and as a result, some of their competitors are able to do the same. Citi now models DRAM average selling price to be rising 200% year over year just in this year, with NAND pricing up about 186% for 26. It was obviously driven by persistent supply constraints as well as AI-related demand. And the people who are buying have a lot of money. That's the thing, right? Key bottleneck remains HBM, of course, capacity where supply is still tight, and producers remain disciplined because converting wafer capacity is quite expensive, and margins favor premium memory products. So they don't even want to sell to the PC market, to people looking to upgrade. They're like, you're not worth our time. We want to sell for more expensive to the people who have deeper pockets. That's essentially what I'm getting out of this report. Implication is, this is a major bullish sell-side call reinforcing the AI memory scarcity trade. But the note here is the stock was weak pre-market. It certainly is not that way right now. I guess that weakness pre-market was suggestive of some skepticism. I don't know if there was skepticism or profit taking. This thing, is it all-time highs? Give me a sec here.
Micron? No.
Yeah,
No.
no. 800 and change, 812, 810, something like that. 725.95 right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, analysts are thinking another 61% upside, so that's going to put you north of $1,000, right? Like we're talking around $1,100 from where we're currently trading at. And then you want to see signs of strength is, well, okay, yeah, you sell off 18%, but then you put in this absolute massive day here today. Could it be somewhat of a bull trap? Maybe, but we're talking about the mass amounts of demand for DRAM and how they're going to be increasing prices. And Sharif talked about some companies like Apple and NVDA who have locked in these long-term contracts where that may not affect them as much, but think about who hasn't. And sure enough, Micron and SanDisk are going to benefit from this stuff. So a big-time move, 168% off of the April lows, and looking like it wants to continue to climb and put in that new all-time high in a matter of a couple of days.
All right, just give me a sec because I got to change my headset here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So should try with this one.
All right, let me go on about a couple of things, guys. We went on a big time run here, slowly starting to pull back.
Check.
Big time moves. Looking at the stock portfolio tracker, Katina Man's reloaded on Google as that continues to climb higher. Pull back into VWAP, and then sure enough, maybe you get a bounce off of the volume weighted average price there, Katina Man. What were you long at? 390 roughly. So yeah, not too bad there.
Perfect. Yeah, I just had to get the headset fixed up.
Yeah, man, no problem.
All right. Let's move on. Actually, I wanted to say one thing. I wanted to see what Micron was trading at. So let's load up the Fundamentals Explorer over here and have a quick look at what. So this is PE. Look at, I mean, I can't believe this. It's still trading $10 below the industry average. The PE for semis is 32.18. Micron is trading at 22.48. And I'm assuming, and I don't know if that's forward or not, but I'm assuming a lot of that has to do with the cyclicality of memory, or what is perceived to be the traditional cyclicality of memory names, because it's trading at a marked discount here relative to its peers. Now, I hesitate to call, the non-memory producers like AMD, Intel as peers, but they are all semiconductors, right? So interesting discount there. And my understanding is that Citi didn't just tweak the estimates in the report, they fundamentally altered their valuation framework. So what do I mean by that? They lifted Micron's multiple from 5 times to 8 times the estimated calendar year EPS. But when you look at what other microchip semiconductor names are trading at, they're trading a lot higher than 5 to 8 times. So that is quite interesting here.
What? Say that again. What are
so
we
they're trading
at?
5 times to 8 times calendar year 2027 EPS.
What's that?
And when you look at
what's the average?
It's like 20 something. And then when you look at PE, the industry, so if you say semis, trading at 32.18.
And they're trading at 22.
Damn. Right? So again, I think that there is some sort of justification for that in that historically, memory's been like feast or famine. You either have too much or you don't have enough. Again, some people are saying, industry experts are saying, that cyclicality, I don't know if it's going to come to an end, but it'll be less pronounced simply because you just need to build out these data centers, right? And RAM seems to be such an important component, of course, especially in packaging. We've talked a lot about that. Any other comments, or should we move on to Home Depot?
Yeah, let's go to Home Depot. I want to talk a little bit about this.
Home Depot beat fiscal Q1 expectations. They posted EPS of $3.43, beating the $3.41 expected by analysts and posting revenue of $41.77 billion ahead of the $41.52. So a clean beat on the top and bottom line. And they did reaffirm their full year guide. Didn't change, didn't drop it. Sales rose about 5% year over year. Happy to see that that's happening. Management said the core homeowner remains financially resilient despite the weaker consumer confidence, as well as elevated rates are obviously and the geopolitical uncertainty. The softer part of the story was underneath the headline beat. Comparable sales rose just 0.6%. The street wanted 0.8%. So year over year, basically those stores that have been open for a year, those are the ones you can categorize in comp sales. Transactions also fell 1.3% and gross margins missed 33% versus the 33.2% expected. Not a big miss there, but something to note anyway. Management said customers continue delaying the larger renovation projects, and that reinforced the already existing view that the housing-linked discretionary spend remains a little sluggish. And I think we've been able to see that, especially as you've been pointing out multiple times, consumer discretionary is pretty weak. Strategic offset remains the pro business, though, and they talked a lot about that the last quarter, right? Remember, they're like, oh, we're getting away from the do-it-yourselfer. We're going to go after the pro. The pro, you know, they got the big bucks. They're the ones that are going to be consistently buying more off us. Pro, obviously, is like contractors, carpenters, et cetera, everybody in the skilled trades. They want to leave the do-it-yourselfers. They're saying here that, you know, the pros still kind of helping, expanding. Actually, here it says, where Home Depot continues expanding aggressively via acquisitions to attack the $700 billion contractor pro market. That's what they're saying. Implication is decent print, but not a clean cyclical recovery story yet, Joey.
So, yeah, Sharif, just to add to your point, we've noticed this within Lowe's and Home Depot over the previous couple of quarters. As Sharif mentioned, they're looking to really step away. We had that do-it-yourselfer boom almost over a half a decade ago. And when did that really start? When things slowly, gradually opened up after COVID. And then now you're going after the pro and the actual businesses that buy this stuff in bulk. And I think that's really important to note. And inventory churns are essentially 4.2 times to what we see in 4.3 last year. Even though you have a 1 basis point downtick, that's pretty good. So unlike some of the actual retail names who are holding onto inventory too long, inventory turn within this specific space is actually relatively well. Now, we went over the gross margins and diluted EPS down about 3.7%, which I think is really important, but the foreign exchange impact added approximately 55 basis points to total company comps, which isn't bad whatsoever. But again, you're just swaying away from something and just really focusing on what's working for the company, and then you're churning that inventory, which I think is extremely important. So you're getting more bulk bought instead of the classic do-it-yourselfer who just buys one-offs, builds up whatever they need to, fixes whatever they need to, but you have that reoccurring and that ongoing customer coming back in time after time.
Well said. Meta, let's talk a little this. They're reportedly reorganizing their workforce around AI specifically, and they're going to move about 7,000 employees into a specific AI-focused division. The broader cost controls as well as selective layoffs will continue, sadly. I got more on this, but let's read the headlines. The restructuring follows earlier cuts, impacting about 8,000 workers, suggesting Meta is not just reducing AI ambition, it's allocating capital and talent towards it. Zuckerberg previously guided $115 to $135 billion in total 2026 AI CapEx spend, much of it aimed at AI infrastructure and competition with the OpenAIs, the Alphabets, the Anthropics. Meta, let's be honest about it, they're far behind. The read-through is this is yet another confirmation that hyperscaler CapEx, number one, remains intact. I have to digress here for a second. Whoever is in NXXT, good on you guys. This thing is ripping. into another high of day. 73.80 in one fell swoop. I saw this from the corner of my eye. Take out 67 into 73.80. What a retracement down, though, into 70. Has some resistance here at 70. Be on the lookout, though. NFLX making a move, but aggressive profit taking into the highs. We'll finish the meta story when we get back from Madeira.
This Google keynote is still happening here. Keep an eye on GOOGL, currently saying that their Gemini 3.5 flash model could actually help top Google customers save up to $1 billion a year on token processing. So interesting look there for GOOGL. As this keynote continues, it's worth noting J.D. Vance, Vice President of the U.S., just took the podium for this press briefing. Again, he was supposed to start at 1 p.m., so he's a little bit late. But if there is anything that comes of either the press briefing or Google I.O., I will keep you posted on both. Back to you.
Before we continue with the meta story, I want to mention what C. Jason Dew said there in the chat regarding the Home Depot story. Listen to this. I'm a do-it-yourselfer. And Home Depot automatically signed me up for a pro account this past year and called me an independent contractor. Numbers lie a bit. That's actually good information to know, man. You know, because we got to take these things at face value. Unless we have somebody like you telling us, you know, that they may be playing around with the numbers there. I mean, how the hell am I supposed to know? Thank you very much.
I guarantee, I bet you that that's what's happening, right? Because if we're looking at the pro, we have to look at it from businesses like the smaller carpentry business, the framers, the plumbers who are just purchasing this stuff, who have the pro account. I think that's what they're going to be doing, right? Like you have someone come into the store and they're like, hey man, this is a one-off event for me, and they sign you up with that without your. Think about who did that in the banks,
Wells
Right?
Fargo.
You know what I mean?
Exactly
and they got
what I
trouble.
thought was
So I mean,
that,
we're not going to put it to the same extent, but that's probably what's happening, right? Because how many actual pros are there and that smaller business who are actually coming in and really moving this thing?
I agree. I mean, there's a finite amount of them. And somebody else saying that Lowe's did the same thing to them. The Marines, Lowe's did the same thing to me. Interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting.
It's like, yeah, it's just like saying you're a pro. Okay, I mean. I don't know.
Right, I mean, like, there's no card carrying.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Show ID that you're a pro.
Exactly.
Like, anybody
put it under the business account.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. Anybody in there, you can open a business account, right? Luis, if you're in the chat.
Everybody got a see, Save Man Woman, they gave his wife a pro.
They gave his wife a pro as well, huh?
Yeah.
Well, this is good information to know, though.
It is. It
really is good information.
It truly is.
Luis, if you're in the chat, brother, what a fantastic short by you and your traders. You certainly got this one right.
Yeah.
There goes GIPR. Joseph threw 40 pennies down into about 38 and a quarter. I know for a fact, that Luis Barbado and the crew out there in Barcelona, Spain were shorting at 54 to 53. So they printed up multiple storms on this. Shout out to Luis Barbado and the crew there. Hopefully, Luis will be on with Joseph and I tomorrow, and we're going to be talking to him about this one, because I'm going to take a screenshot of it here, and we're going to discuss this. So GIPR goes one way, NFLX goes the other. This is right back into 73. It's about to take out highs. Guys, if this takes out 75, it's on the way to $1 here. Trade it carefully, trade it soundly, use proper risk management strategies. NFLX looks to be the best of the bunch anyway in this world of small cap gappers right now. Let's continue on with this meta story. TMAS, just before I do that, CNEY halted up. Okay, so we have to cover this just because it is halted up. Great call out there by you, TMAS. CNEY, the ticker. Throw that on in a second. That's the weekly. That's not what we're looking for there. 5-minute chart. Yeah, this is ripping up. It's above $1. Let's throw this on. CNEY. I don't have a reason why this is up, okay? I just have volatility halt notifications and no explanation as to why this is up. It is a $6.58 million name, China-based. Okay, that's what you need to know right away. Okay, it's a China-based holding company. They produce supplies based on activated carbon. Okay, whatever. The point is, what's the float? I bet you it's south of $1 million. Just watch. Not quite. 4.4, so basically 4.5 million share float, so very small. All right, halted 117. Let's see when it halted. CNEY. On the NASDAQ, halt time, 140.03. Earliest this will be open is 145.03. Tap showing 141 dropping to 130. So it already looks like it's going to rip up here. I don't know why this is moving. And you need to know that these Chinese names, man, they are a bamboozling bunch, especially when there's no catalyst. Trade this carefully, okay? Showing a fantastic tap now, 139, 135, CNEY, really ripping up here. So Meta, back to this story. Restructuring follows earlier cuts impacting about 8,000 workers, and it looks like, they're relocating some of that talent. They previously guided a lot of money in CapEx, $135 billion in 26. The read-through is this is another confirmation the hyperscaler CapEx remains intact. The implication, though, is Meta itself may trade as a restructuring story, but the bigger takeaway is continued validation for AI infrastructure beneficiaries. What do you feel about this one, Joe?
So, I mean, we know where Meta stands at this point, right? CapEx heavy and the issue with monetization. And I kind of want to, Sharif, if the more that we talk about it, the more kind of just it baffles me and kind of just, it's hard to wrap my head around it, even though it's really simple. And I'm reading some things here on Google. What really sent Google ahead of Meta, ahead of some of these other plays, even Anthropic and OpenAI, is the ability to monetize Gemini. Gemini is absolutely phenomenal. The majority of people use it. Now, what do we have from Zuck? We talk about MuseSpark. Sharif tried to get into MuseSpark the other day. He's like, yeah, no thanks. I'm not intrigued from that. What do we get from Avocado and Llama? Absolutely nothing. Now you're going to start training some of your workers so that they can use AI tools to replace your job. I don't know how you feel about that, but I would be like, yeah, no, I'm not. I hate it. I would probably be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'll just quit because I'm going to get fired anyways. Exactly. Right? So you just get out of there. So what they're doing to scrape around like you mentioned it was around $8 billion a year that they were going to save. You're spending $115 billion to $135 billion in 2026. Now, I understand that every penny counts and you want to gather funds where you can at the end of the day, but in the grand scheme of things, that's a fraction of a percent of the money that you're going to be spending. So your reputation is kind of at risk here, and yet you're still having issues. You're spending all this money on cloud services, but yet you haven't monetized anything. And people, quite frankly, don't even really want to use your products. There's nothing intriguing enough. And when you drop MuseSpark and after you poached all of this talent, you built the super intelligence team, and then you release MuseSpark and no one's talking about it, that's not good. And the way that I'll compare this is, you walk down the street, and I was talking to Selena about this. Sorry, Adair, we'll go over to you in 1 second. So I'm walking during Park Lawn, right? And there's all these older restaurants. There's new ones. And you see that ones that are extremely busy, right? They're extremely busy. And then you go to the one restaurant, and nobody's there. And it's booming. It's hot out. Well, there's a reason why no one's there. It's either your food's garbage or the service isn't that good. Now, if no one's using MuseSpark, Avocado, or Llama, it's because the chances are it's not that good. And you need to make it better considering how much money you're spending, because you're going to fall yourself into big time trouble. And we're going to be talking about, could this be another metaverse for Mark Zuckerberg if he doesn't find a way to monetize this stuff? Let's send it off to Adair.
Speaking of AI, guys, Google here continuing to deliver this keynote, introducing a new $100 per month AI plan for developers. They also cut their AI Ultra plan from $250 to $200 per month. So again, guys, we had this Gemini Omni announcement for video creation earlier. Now they're announcing some pricing, cutting some pricing, GeoOGL at this point not reacting too much, though we know earlier it was pushing higher on this keynote. I also have to let you guys know this press conference, or press briefing rather, with White House Vice President, I almost said White House Press Secretary, Vice President J.D. Vance is continuing. He's basically saying that he and President Trump have a couple different options in Iran. They said they can restart the military campaign. That would be option B, but they don't want to do that at this point. So keep an eye on USO. Getting comments about Iran here. Back to you.
Things, because I understand that I'm crapping on Meta a little bit. Full disclosure, I'm a shareholder of this, right? I'm a shareholder of this name. I'm not in at a horrible price. We have the digital ad revenue. Sharif's mentioned this multiple times. They're already at capacity. He's going through multiple ads before he can even get to the next scroll on Reels or whatever it may be. So you're at capacity. You've limited yourself there. Exactly. Now, when you're not that good, there is room to improve. That's something positive. Can you make MuseSpark better? Yes. And also from a PE standpoint, relatively cheap. But what we're seeing right now, the race and the gap is really starting to expand between the other LLMs and some of these AI tools and what Meta is starting to provide and currently providing.
I want to comment on what Adara just pointed out there.
Yeah.
She said she was talking about their business subscription plan. There's
Gemini's.
Specifically Gemini's. But that's the one she was mentioning. I'm not limiting my comments here specifically to Gemini. There's a growing belief in the startup business community that you are to keep your best products off these LLMs because you're going to find them as your competitor 2 and 3 months later. They're taking your shit and they're making it into theirs. That's exactly what they're doing. And I'm not the only person saying this.
What do you mean?
So you come up with an app.
Yeah.
You come up with something, right? And you vibe code it.
Oh, okay.
In whatever you're using, the AI.
Not llama or avocado.
Well, yeah, because they suck anyway, right? The point is, you throw in your program into there, and they're coming out with a competing app 2 and 3 months later. And we saw that with Anthropic. We saw that with Open. Exactly.
They're taking
stealing
your
information.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk, right, especially on X, that you are to keep your best products away from these LLMs and to be very limited in what you expose to them. Some people are even taking like different courses on how to kind of hide almost their intent through their vibe coding. It's crazy what's happening right now. But these people could be your biggest competitor. So when she brought up the whole business plan, it jogged my memory.
I actually want to touch on Google for one more second because, again, I just mentioned the more I think about it, the more insane it is. So they have literally got their hand in every cookie basket, and they are literally at every corner of this AI trade. You have Gemini, one of the better features where you have Nano Banana that can create image generation, and then you have the LLM feature. Now you have Waymo. We understand that they don't have the production capacity that Tesla will potentially have. Fantastic. But other than that, it's still a competitor and still has more autonomous miles than what Tesla has. Oh, and did we forget about Google Cloud? Someone who's actually competing with AWS and just grabbing market share left, right, and center. They are literally in this triangle at every single point, either at the top or competing with the individual who is at the top. And I think that's what makes them so dangerous. And we might even be underestimating this stock's value right now.
I wanted to mention a couple of things here with respect to the Meta story. So part of the employee reshuffling is forcing different actions on the employees while they're still employed. Part of that is mandatory mouse tracking, click tracking, keystroke and logging software. And if that wasn't bad enough, apparently there's now basically this agentic transformation accelerator team and this applied AI engineering division. And these units are specifically tasked to build basically autonomous agents designed to permanently replace the very corporate workforce and the engineers that created them. I mean, if that's not dystopian, I don't know what is. They're basically taking you while you're getting paid in your role as a Meta employee, and they're saying, look, create the agent who's going to put you out of a job. I hate this. I hate this from...
It's not smart.
It's not. It's so bad for morale, employee morale. It's bad for, just optics in terms of, just being... I don't know, man.
I wonder how many people.
I hate it completely.
I wonder how many people voluntarily left after that was some of the things.
We don't have the data on that, but that'd be a great thing to look at.
Right, like who's actually in their right mind going to do that? I understand you want to collect a paycheck, you have a family to feed, but you're out of the door anyways, and they want you to train something that's going to take your job.
I mean, do you think sabotage is a possible response to this?
Right. You'll have that individual who's like, I'm going to try to sabotage.
Of course. I mean, if you're out of the job. All right, Adara has news.
Keep an eye here in WRBY. This is a Google-related catalyst. Here's the 15-minute chart here. I'll switch to the 3-minute for you guys. As you can see, pushing higher. Google announcing intelligent eyewear is coming this fall. So glasses maker Warby Parker pushing higher. Back to you.
That's the point that I want to make with the Meta story. Obviously, it's quite ugly, but trying to stop them, I guess. SEC is looking at tokenized stocks. I think this is going to be good news for those who want that sort of thing. By the way, CNEY open after a prolonged halt. New high day, 130. looking to continue above. Let's flip to the 1 minute. Pardon me, that's the 2. So this was a 10-minute halt, still holding that 117 halt level. Current bar low is 118. Prior bar low was breached 120. I would say look for a 118. Hold, it doesn't hold, you're probably going back to $1. I don't know. It doesn't have a catalyst, first and foremost. Number 2, it's a Chinese name with a low flow, and I've seen too much. I know what's up. Let's talk about this. Trump administration reportedly preparing a regulatory framework allowing tokenized versions of securities to trade on crypto-native platforms. The SEC could introduce, quote, an innovation exemption, close quote, as soon as this week, according to reports, creating a pathway for tokenized stock trading outside, the traditional exchanges, the NASDAQ, the NYSE, the OTC, everything that we've come to know. Reports are suggesting that these tokens may trade without direct backing or approval from the underlying public companies and may not include standard shareholder rights like voting or dividends. I got to pause for a second. I want to make this point. Anthropic has been very vocal about their disdain for this sort of off-market ownership shares. So they're saying people who were sold supposedly shares of Anthropic in the private markets may not actually have any shareholder rights. So they may have equitable rights to the money or the accretion on the profits, but they may not be actually have the same type of voting rights or shareholder rights that you would typically have in the private market if you were to have your direct relationship with Anthropic. So they're just one of the companies who are making a big deal about this. The broader implication is another regulatory step, though, towards integrating traditional finance products into crypto infrastructure. That's positive, obviously, for the digital asset ecosystem. Market implication, Joey, while this is not directly a Bitcoin fundamental, of course, and then do with Bitcoin, anything that legitimizes crypto, especially the rallies, as a financial infrastructure tends to benefit from exchange activity. So we'll see how this all does.
We're going to did I get anything?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I liked how you ended that off there, Sharif, because if we're talking about the tokenization of equities, I think it would be more or less a sympathy play within the crypto space for Bitcoin, right? Where we really, how do you build this stuff? How do you put everything onto a network that you have the ability to tokenize? Well, you have 2 of them, 2 of the most popular, and that's going to be the Ethereum blockchain and the Solana blockchain. So if we're going to tokenize real-world assets and we're going to tokenize equities, which have some benefits, where you have a quicker settling period and just some more benefits, you can exchange potentially peer-to-peer, which could be a big-time game changer. I don't know if that's going to be allowed, but I heard something along those lines. But the real beneficiary of this is going to be, unfortunately for Katina Man, is going to be Tom Lee and the Ethereum boys on the Ethereum blockchain, as well as Solana. So this is what we were looking for through, obviously, more regulation in the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. So, I mean, at some point, it's probably going to happen, and you have more efficient. And we talk about other names as well, too, who actually have smart contracts. We talked about smart contracts that kind of been brushed under the rug, but you have major players like Microsoft in the game-making sector who are using these smart contracts. I believe this is going to be able to be implemented a little bit more in the financial sector when we're talking about shifting everything over onto kind of the blockchain and the tokenization of everything.
Adira?
The Google I/O announcements continue. NKE actually getting a Google partnership here. They're launching a new AI-powered shopping experience. U.S. consumers will now be able to buy and discover Nike products directly in the Gemini app and through the AI mode facet of Google search. So Nike, Google partnership, who knew? Back to you.
If we can show this, Assassino, Anthropic cracks down on unauthorized share transactions, exposing concentrated risks of private equity gray market stakes. So according to Bloomberg, this was broken by Bloomberg, Anthropic has recently expanded its ban on what they're calling unauthorized share transactions, explicitly prohibiting investors from purchasing its shares through unofficial channels such as special purpose vehicles and the like. They issued a stern statement on their website, unusually naming 8 related entities and stating that transactions conducted through such channels will be deemed invalid. That means numerous investors holding shares indirectly through intermediaries now face significant risk. In the worst case scenario, the shares could be declared invalid and rendered unenforceable upon the company's IPO, which we're waiting for. Investor concerns over share validity spread rapidly from family office, WhatsApp groups, X, Reddit. There was a lot of discussions, and I was looking at the LLM over here, see what Google had to say about this, and they said that basically they're taking it a step further and just saying it's going to be more than shareholder protections that are not going to be allowed, but basically they're saying unauthorized transactions are completely void, meaning buyers can own absolutely nothing if they actually go through this. So interesting to see this happening. Now I'm assuming that there's probably going to be some sort of regulatory framework for the tokenization of some of these equities that maybe may not result on that in this kind of extreme event. But it's something to keep in mind when we're talking a lot about that. One more here. Tapestry. One more. Yeah, we're almost done, Katina, man. I know you're having a good time over there. Yeah, I think that's good for now. The other stories are really not that pressing, so we can kind of gloss over them. But I did want to leave you guys with a couple of trade ideas here. It looks like it's going to be NXXT's day. Into 74.05, so in my book, that's a 75 penny touch into $0.75. I'd say if 75 gets cleared, you should be looking at the dollar. And then for the newer small cap traders, especially if NXXT continues strongly into the close, stick around for the aftermarket, because that's when these ones get crazy. There's no volatility halt parameters, so you could start moving up dollars at a time, you know. Theoretically speaking, we'll have to see if it happens in real life. But NXXT, definitely one to keep your eye on here into the afternoon. CNEY, bless you, is not giving up the ghost, quite frankly. This is the one that TT Mass brought us. A halter, it's a Chinese name with no catalyst, by the way, and a 4.5 million share float. It's holding up. So I don't know what this one's deal is, but I still don't see any news headline on it, just a bunch of volatility halt parameters. Keep your eye on this one, but I think if it fails that 116, 117 level, you should steer clear here, as I will steer clear of CES, getting out break even for the last remaining amount, as this one did fail the 10 EMA on the 5. We're going to send you to Adara. She's got news.
HAS dropping here, guys. This company actually reporting earnings, I believe, tomorrow morning as Netflix announces an expansion into new segments like kids and family. They're going to be making major moves into toys. So again, Hasbro dropping here as Netflix announces a move into the toy space. Back to you.
Yeah, all right.
All right, man. Yeah, other than that, man, hey, tougher one for me, but that's all right, man. It's only Tuesday. Yesterday, not too bad. The rest of the last week, not bad. So it's just one. We take it easy the rest of the day. It's nice outside. Maybe we get out there a little bit early and enjoy what we got going on. Get another little.
It's going to rain. I think that's what they're trying to get out there. You better do it early.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I was looking at the radar. I didn't see anything on there. Thanks for. Hey, man, the radar doesn't lie, man.
I found myself doing that on the weekend,
You don't look on the radar, bro?
I found myself doing it on the weekend.
You got to look at the radar, my guy. See, look. No, but you're looking at the long one, man.
That's the radar.
You got to look at the cloud at the.
That is the radar, man. There's no clouds.
This radar, my boy. You see
Hold
this
on.
one?
Are you in the?
Yeah, we're on the same thing.
I'm in the. How come I'm not getting?
You went to a different one.
Not even. This is the Weather Network. Aren't you in the Weather Network app?
Yeah.
So how come you have a different radar than mine?
Because I got that rain radar. You got that heat radar, man.
Ah, temperature map. There
you got
how do I change
You're going to get over to the rain.
How do you do that?
I don't know, man. How'd you get over there?
Crazy.
Yeah, you got to get the rain radar on there. I don't see anything popping up on that one. So
Joey,
what?
CNEY is halted up. The Chinese low floater without a headline continues to rip. Guys, trade this carefully, but it is making the move, man. I mean, it is what it is. Whether you agree with it or not, it's happening.
Yesterday's run was great. Sorry.
Pardon me?
Someone asked me how my run yesterday was, and it was.
Oh, you went for a run?
Of course, man. It's nice out. I'm not even gonna lie, man. I know you get a lot of people saying, "Man, it's so hot out." It really, as long as that cool breeze is there, it's not that hot.
And you're by the water too, so then
it's a little bit cooler. It drops a couple of degrees over there.
All right.
For you guys there. So yeah, let's see what today is like. But yeah, man, it was good stuff yesterday. Let's see if we can get back to that today. It's not hot. Okay, says Ramin.
All right.
Men's not hot.
Yeah, well, because she's like in a 5,000-pound truck with the air conditioner on.
Yeah. Hey, hold on. Mike Peter Ryder said something, all right? This may be controversial, but I'm just going to speak my head here. We're going to do what you know what really grinds my gears, Sharif? Are we ready for this one?
Yeah,
Are you ready for this one?
He's gonna get lit up here.
So everyone during the wintertime complains it's cold, I can't wait for summer, I can't wait for summer. Then when it turns hot, we turn the AC on and we go back to being cold. What is even going on here? We got to deal with the heat, we got to live in the heat. Because you know what I mean? It's just like, come on. That's what's grinding my gears.
I want to know what the boys think.
I want to hear what they have to say, but that's what really grinds my gears.
Katina, man, I know you're a fan of the heat, but I got to ask you a question, Katina, man.
Ask me.
Are you a fan of humidity?
No.
Who likes humidity?
My only comment about what Joe was saying is,
Look at this guy with his hand up, Katina, man.
No, he's allowed to be, but I feel like you don't put on the air conditioning to get cold.
What do you do?
You put on the air conditioning to get comfortable.
To get comfortable.
I agree.
Okay, hold on now.
Like I'm not trying to Iceman myself.
No. But where in life have you ever succeeded with just being comfortable? You got to get out of those comfort zones
every day.
and just step outside of it.
Yo, I'm not feeling that analogy.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, my guy.
I agree with that.
Okay, so when it comes to
not when it comes to weather.
No, when it comes to that, like, yeah, man, if you're in the gym, if you're doing
Neil.
a challenge, just
You're trading.
you're trying to get yourself uncomfortable. If I'm just chilling, then I want to be comfortable.
Man, that's lame,
there is nothing wrong with that.
Lame,
and
man.
I can't believe I'm not long Google.
Everyone's got a window. Everyone has a window with which they like. And yours, maybe it's just wider. You just like it. Like, if I don't want it 40 degrees with the humidity, I'm not. I love the heat, but I don't need that.
Neil, I walked to the subway this morning. It's like